took one look and closed the damn screen. I was like, not today. Not today.
Alright, so that says it's streaming on there. So in theory, if I set this to whatchamacallit, it should be good. In theory. Might well fuck it
Excellent.
up. Alright, getting ready to go
I'm on
public.
your. Oh boy.
Alright,
There we
just
go. Let's see.
my phone so I can look at the chat.
Natural history. We're going
Save.
here. I'm gonna try and look at chat from the computer,
Alrighty.
but also
So I think we're
the
live now.
tier.
In theory,
Oh, okay.
we
In
are
theory, we're
more
live.
back than we've ever been before.
Let's see. Oh, I think I see it. Oh
Yeah,
wait,
it
no, I
says we're
don't.
live. Hooray.
Oh, are we? I see it. I see it. Beautiful.
Alright, now it's time to be composed. And
Yes, very cool. Very slick.
salt of the earth, like
Very
we said.
salt of the earth. Oh, yeah, look at this. Here, let me grab the. While we're still getting set up, I'm gonna post this on my socials.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone. That's what I probably should have opened with instead of
Yeah,
marveling at
right.
the fact we managed to get the stream going.
That is an
'Cause
achievement.
it is for us, yeah. Alright,
Yes.
so while Sawyer posts it, yeah, this will be a tier list, a fun yappery tier list, where we
Yes.
simply go through high-ranking dragons in film and TV and decide what they bring to the table as a dragon. So that's role in the story, design, so on and so forth.
Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit design, but to avoid all of these being S tier or most of them, we're gonna discuss how they operate in their thing.
Mm.
Let's
And
see.
bits of yappery about the assorted media they're in as well.
Of course.
Alrighty, do you want to introduce yourself as well to any who may be here from my side of things and not yours, and who may not know who
Yeah.
you are?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sawyer Lee. I'm an artist. I have my own YouTube channel on here. Uh, I'm buddies with UHC over here, and we are streaming. And sorry, I was like totally got distracted by something in the other side of the room. But um, I'm an author and an artist. I have a book Kickstarter out now. We're on the last 2 days. If you want to nab it, it's a survival guide to dragons. Goes over the biology, the ecology, the habits, habitats, diets, all of that good stuff, and how you, as a dragon slayer, can survive all of them. It's very fun. I definitely recommend you check it out if you like this kind of thing. And I'm very excited to be here today, chit-chatting it up, hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, shall we roll up our sleeves and get stuck in?
I think so.
All right, we're starting strong. We have someone who I think most would agree would probably be an S tier, and it
Okay,
is Mr.
let's see.
Caraxes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think,
Easiest decision.
yeah, no, I think so. Like book Caraxes, by himself, he probably wouldn't. I don't know what tier it'd be in, but it wouldn't be S. But for all the faults the show has, it has really cooked with Caraxes. And in terms
Mm-hmm.
of his design and what he is, like as the sort of the mutant inbred sausage dog dragon, they've
Mm-hmm.
really sort of turned that around and made him into something that I think is both very memorable and will leave a lasting footprint on dragon design, I think, because of the very
Oh yeah.
serpentine aspects.
The especially with how long he is usually. I mean, well, think of the impact Drogon had
Mm,
in Dragons going forward. It was he kind of popularized that wyvern body type with the bulky chest and like the wings and the sort of animalistic but still kind of intelligent thing. We can put that common image of a dragon in people's heads. Croxy's, he's from the same IP, so he's gonna obviously put. Hopefully, he'll push some interesting new dragons in people's stuff going forward.
I almost feel like Caraxes is a little bit of he's like a mix of East and West in a way, and that he's like the
Big
more
time.
elongated one to the West on sort of the wyvern body of wait no the elongated one to the East on the wyvern body of the West.
Yes,
And yeah, I
which
think
is
it's really cool.
he shares that with Smog too, who is also designed with that in mind. Though I
Smog's
think
very
he
long, and
does it
Fatalis as well. He's very long as well.
exactly. Smog in his design notes, like there's a little booklet on how they designed him. They do mention the East and West influences to have him sort of slip around the columns, but I think Caraxes kind of does that better.
Yeah, he
Or
takes it
he,
to more of an extreme. Yeah,
yeah, he reads Smog reads kind of like a very normal dragon, but he really reads with that snaky, very viper. He almost has like people say he has Carnotaurus horns, but I would almost say he has the eyelash viper horns, or at least
yeah,
it
yeah.
reads as that more to me. Very snaky, very like gives him that sort of innate danger, especially when he's flying and you see his crazy silhouette with the sharp edges and the this sharp tail fin and everything. He's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, the trouser wings as well are really cool. They're just one of those things that say that he might be a bit more of an artificial dragon, because if no one else has
Hmm.
them and the dragons are they have been sculpted by like Valerians for a long time, then you
Hmm.
get the impression that they were put on there not for functionality but more for show. And that's just another really good thing
Yeah,
about the Hot D dragons is that they're all sort of built a bit like they're like a really good interpretation of domestic dragons in a way.
yeah, it's a cool way of doing domestics because you'd think when you say domestic dragon, I think of like How to Train Your Dragon and like big puppy dog or like cat
Yeah.
just depictions. But I mean, if anyone's going to domesticate a dragon, it's still going to be people want to have that ferociousness in there and keep that crazy look, and he's a perfect way to do that. He's like a pit bull.
Yeah.
He's scary, but he's still he's not going to kill everybody. He has Damon. Uh, it's a perfect way to sort of capture a domestic dragon without him being just like a harmless, defanged like worm.
Yeah, like too much of a pet.
Exactly. Like too much. Yeah, like a dog. He's not a dog. He's a dragon, and he's like the master dragon. I'd imagine a wild Caraxes would be uh, ferocious and scary, but not as visually impressive. I think of like wild horses versus domestic horses with the crazy coats.
Mm. Mm. So I think like it really comes across in personality as well. The way you get the impression they do have a bond, but they have like that's the one thing I think so many people fall into in fiction is like that sort of all animals are dogs trope, and
Yeah.
they do a really good job of steering away from that in Hot D.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of it too. Like those dragons are obviously not like they're not all wild. You see when Caraxes is enjoying being pet by Damon in the first episode,
Mm.
but he's still like he reminds me of when dogs are funny enough to bring up dogs, but like hunting dogs when you bring them out on the what they're bred to do or herding dogs, they get really really in the zone and act in a very serious, dignified manner that you wouldn't see like Toothless doing.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Toothless is a bit too much dog, maybe. At times for
Yeah,
something that's meant to be like, the strongest thing in the sky or whatever.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
they
The
sort of
cat
layer onto
dragon,
him, yeah.
exactly. A little too much dog for a cat.
Mm. A little bit too much dog for a dragon as well.
That too.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think we're
think.
we're we're mostly agreed. And I think
Yeah,
this is where most people would put Caraxes as well. Because I do think
yeah.
like
He's just.
I was mentioning it to you
Mhm.
earlier, I do think people do overrate Caraxes a little bit. Because
Yeah.
actually, like, let's for spoilers, I'm gonna put B will be the spoiler zone, where I put things so people have a little bit of time if they're watching this after the stream, where we can talk about things
Hmm.
that will happen, because we know all the spoilers. But
Right.
yeah, of how Caraxes takes down Vhagar, like I was saying, like too many people read into that and just sort of think, oh, 1v1s easily, and not that it was like this one in a million
Yes.
suicide attempt
Yes.
where like Vhagar might have survived, but Caraxes was definitely going to die if he takes her on. I think a lot
Yeah,
of people just deliberately ignore a lot of that to go like, oh yeah, he wins easily.
that's the whole thing with those like 1v1s. Like just because he survived doesn't mean he's like, oh man, he could like one tap Vagar. Like
Yeah, like
that's not how it works. And I think him not surviving that ordeal but still taking down Vagar is more more badass, for lack of a better word, than if he just like, like what was it you mentioned? Someone said like he should coil constrict
yeah, like do that
Vagar,
anaconda thing around Vagar. It's like, oh my
like
god,
some crazy
like
stuff. But
yeah, it's like
if
and
it
so
was
many
too
people
easy,
think that will happen. Like he's
yeah,
yeah, I think he'd just like break
like
his own neck if he tried that.
like if he took down Vagar way too easily, it's like it's not even impressive. It's like
Hmm.
it's you'd think, okay, sure, he's like the special boy, he's like toothless, he that win button.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
him dying, especially with the wounds that in the book, we'll see how they handle it in the show.
Yeah,
But
he
the wounds
gets
he suffers,
obliterated.
oh, and the fact that he hauls himself out of the lake despite his guts spilling out and with one
Mm.
wing,
Yeah, with only a
that
few limbs,
tells you,
yeah.
yeah, that's how tough he is. And if they don't add that, that would really sort of dampen uh, the intensity of that dragon.
Yeah. I'm like on one hand, I'm like I think fuck, what's the name of the guy who actually writes the show? Ryan Condal. He loves Damon,
Mm-hmm.
but Sarah Hess doesn't like Damon. And so
Interesting.
but like I think just so many people are looking forward to God's Eye that I think it's sort of like right now you can't imagine how they would change it and like if they were going to change it how they'd fuck it up because it's just so cut and dry. Like it's probably one of those events of the dance that unlike so many others isn't and then so and so claims he saw this and so like it's said very clearly essentially like blow by blow what happens. But
Yeah,
I do have that slight fear that they might fuck something up. This was their
they
track record
better.
isn't good.
Yeah, they better just follow it. The safest way is just to follow that to the T, and and just give you a badass fight between uh, Damon and Aemon.
Hmm.
That is the only way to do it. People want to see that showdown, and if you change it, if like suddenly Sheep Stealer's there, you're gonna be like, okay,
Yeah, we forgot to
sure
put
thing.
Sheep Stealer in this. But
Uh,
like we said it at the
we could
time as
just
well,
yeah.
but Sheep Stealer, we put him out of the spoiler zone now. But yeah, Sheep Stealer is oh god, terrible, I think, in the show. Like the
He
circumstances of its
uh
claiming,
huh
just the design,
uh
how
huh
small it is, it's oh my
the
god,
small.
they did
Oh
not
my god.
cook.
See, he when I was watching it, right, and they show him like you finally see Sheep Stealer. I was so hyped to see him.
Yeah, same.
At
The first
first,
wild
I
dragon.
like, yeah, right. There's parts of him I like. I like his like tendril wing tips, like the real spindly fingery whatever. In his color, like he has that cool stripe down the side, and his deep kind of guttural roar, which is uncommon among
Hmm,
the other dragons. Everyone else kind of squeaks like a bird or a dolphin, but he has this deep
they do squeak
baritone
quite a
voice.
bit, the Hot D
Right,
dragons.
right.
Yeah.
Like even Drogon, he's like very
Mm.
squeaky. Uh, but yeah, he has a deep voice, and I like that. But I wish, kind of like Vagar, that deep voice was put on a larger dragon because he's old. He's not. Like, he looks like he can get bodied by like
He's literally like the
Silverwing.
size of Arax, I think. Like he's
Yes,
so small.
Cyrax too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially he looks like his design to me looks like he would be bigger, and like it was shrunk down after the fact.
Yeah.
He has this droopy neck, kind of like Vagar and the other ones. He's got the sort of compact horn-studded face, almost like a Melis kind of thing going on.
Mm.
And his tail, his hip, like he has like this uh, German Shepherd hip dip that
Oh
makes
yeah,
his
yeah.
tail drag heavy on the ground, and that just tells me that he would be huge. Yet he's as light as like Cyrax.
Yeah, it's just a complete mess. It really is. It's like in the books he was
I hope,
described as a
yeah,
skinny brown dragon. And like that and a wild one. And I think he was in the books he's I think implied to be like a similar size to Caraxes. But
yeah.
yeah, they
They talked about him like he was, and
yeah.
like leading up to his reveal, they were like, "Oh, there's another large dragon
Yeah,
out
they stay
there."
large, don't they?
And then you just see a lizard grow
Yeah,
up
a
on the
winged
screen,
lizard.
this gecko, and you're like, okay, I live in Florida, and I'm like, I see 12 of those every day.
Yeah, you've got your gators over there who are already bigger than a sheep stealer.
Exactly. They'd make him run for the hills.
Oh
Yeah,
dear. It's a shame we were
we're not
talking
sheep
like,
stealer fans.
we
He would
should
be
have
a
brought
D
more
tier.
crap dragons in because everyone's just going to be an S or A, and we forgot the one
Exactly.
that we hate
I
collectively.
know. Well, he gets an honorary position in D, and unless he gets D, unless they show up next season and he's giant and awesome,
Inexplicably
and
redesigned, yeah.
yeah, yes, and like looks totally different, kind of like what I hope they do with Tessarion.
Mm.
And
Because they didn't
if
show
they
that
do that
much
for
at
us,
Tessarion, so they can
no,
get away with that, I think.
yeah, she looks like Arax, and I don't want a blue Arax. I want something new.
Yeah, yeah.
I see the comment there. I'm shocked that Saphira isn't on the list. Don't worry, she is, but she's an F, which is below D and cuts out of the screen.
Not a fan of Aragon then. Oh shit, we could have
I
put Saphira in, shouldn't we?
I
I read
I
those
watched
books
it
when I
a
was a
lot.
kid.
I did too. I like the book. Saphira is different. I'm talking about that movie.
Yeah, like I think everyone
Um,
hated the movie. Though apparently the
yeah,
creator, apparently he was like, oh, for it's not too bad. Like I think he was just sort of happy with what he got, really, which is
yeah, fair enough.
yeah, yeah, fair
Yeah, I
enough.
mean,
That's good.
I guess I would be the same way. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I got a movie.
But yeah,
you
I
know?
remember one thing from that I think the biggest thing I remember from those books is one how slow the start was, but then how slow Saphira grew as well, and like how
Hmm.
long it took for her to get to like a rideable size and all that sort of stuff. And then in the film, they've just got that god awful growth montage, and
Oh my
it's
God,
not
yeah.
great. Yeah.
It's funny enough, very, very convergent with Daenerys and her dragons.
Oh yeah, where Drogon's like the size of Meleese in 7 years.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, totally, just magic, bro. That's it. It's
You did want
crazy.
a 5 year gap, George R. R. Martin between the third book and the fourth, and well, the fourth and fifth are like the same timeline, but I think in the end he decided against it, and now he's just sort of got to live with the fact his Drogon inexplicably grows hyper fast.
Exactly. Like it's just stuck with it. Got to make it work. Just got to say blood, magic, destiny, what have
Yeah,
you.
he wasn't in the dragon pit, and they grow faster out the dragon pit.
Yeah, unless you're sheep stealer.
Yeah, that's very true. Seems Stealer has a growth hormone issue. They need to cut into her brain and take
It's
that
got to
gene out.
be. He's got to be some kind of disease he caught from a sheep or a
He got
guy. I don't know, some
scrapey.
flea bottom. Yeah, there you go.
He got
He,
scrapey and now he's shrunken. But when Raina finds him, she'll cure him.
yeah, she just needs to give him some crushed up vitamin C
Exactly. That'll yeah,
or
like when you're
something.
feeding a lizard and you have to dust all the
Exactly.
crickets with
Yeah,
that powder to stop
the
metabolic bone
calcium. Yeah,
disease. Exactly that. Yeah.
exactly.
She's
Like
just yeah, his that sheep's wool she's gonna feed him is soaked in that calcium dust.
yes, we just need to get a montage of her feeding him calcium dust, and then he
There
shows
we
up
go.
like Balerion and be like, and I'm like, there you go, there he
Thank
is.
God. We should email this to Condolence, really.
We should. We show up at their door with like a whole manuscript, like a diagram, everything.
Yeah.
It's gonna be beautiful. Then
Yeah,
they'll like kick us out, and
it's still be
our
incredible.
butts will
Is
hit the
what season
curb.
3 will be.
Exactly.
Oh,
They'll say that's stupid, and then we watch season 3. Boom, there's our idea.
yeah, I know that. And then we can plagiarize. Well, they'll plagiarize us, but H Bomber guy will make a video on them, and then we'll be in the right.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll have the tea. Everyone in the chat knows
Mm.
that we were here first.
120 people are our witnesses. Oh,
Exactly.
alrighty, next
Exactly. They
dragon.
are our jury. Yes, next dragon. Let's go. What are we
Draco.
thinking?
Where do you think we should
Let's
put
do it.
him? Because I'm genuinely
Um,
not sure.
but
It was my suggestion about putting him in here, but I haven't seen this film in so long.
mhm. I would. Oh, I gotta like not look through my nostalgia lens.
Hmm.
Does his voice actor contribute to his rating? Because Sean Connery is kind of cool in terms of how he voiced him.
Yeah,
Um, we could. I'm between A and B right now.
I am as well.
Uh,
It's like,
as it does, I like his like nose bump, but you know what? Put him in B for now, and I'll explain.
ooh, go ahead.
he's got um, his CGI is whatever, right? That's just a product of the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. That's
he
fair.
has very big eyes, like very big eyes. And I get he's supposed to be expressive, kind of like Smog, but I'm talking those are huge. Um,
Mm.
he's also got like probably the worst case of armpit wing I've ever seen. Like, like Game of Thrones can kind of get away with it because they have dragons that don't have that. But his wings like stop right at the elbow finger, and just it does not connect further down. And that kind of jarred me when I was younger watching this. I like his colors; they are a little boring, which is another reason he's going in B. He's got like he's a product of his time of like early CGI creature where he's just brown.
Yeah.
Uh, he's got that Jurassic Park thing going on. In
Yeah.
his
I think sort of with some of
defense,
them it
yeah,
was like because CGI was so in its infancy, it was like we need to make them look as drab as possible because if they're too garish, it might break the
yeah,
illusion with this new technology. But yeah.
exactly. And for that, I could actually agree with that. If I was in the studio, like designing him, I would probably argue the same thing, especially with the new tech. If you go, all right, this is going to look kind of bleh on the screen, or kind of like it'll look like CGI. You try to balance that out with natural colors and patterns and things, so he doesn't look like a cartoon plopped on top, kind of like the sequel did when there was like the baby Draco.
Oh, there was
Um,
a
that,
sequel.
there's like four sequels and they're not good.
Mary,
Um,
Mother of God.
yeah, the second one is probably the worst, where it's like his kid and he looks like a total like chubby like Garfield of a dragon,
Oh,
and
Christ.
I know, right? And then there's like the villain who turns into a dragon, and he's like this red, almost like a blend of an eastern and a western dragon, except for he's red and he has like whiskers, but he looks straight out of Spyro in not a good way. Like he just sticks out like a sore thumb, um, which is crazy. But he Draco has big nostalgia points. I like his gimmicks. I like his tail thing, the scissors that he does with his tail, and the snake fangs that kind of shoot out like Toothless's
Yeah,
teeth
yeah,
do.
they're quite cool.
Oh man, I don't know whether to have him sit at B or A, and he's voiced by Sean Connery.
Yeah, and he has some really funny lines as well.
He
Like, what's
does.
that one where it's like, I chewed in self-defense, but I didn't swallow or something.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know what? Let's give him that A. I love my boy
For the
Draco too
wit. Yeah.
much
I think as
for the
well, like,
wit. Exactly.
this is a really bad picture of him. I think from the side and in some of his movement shots, the CGI looks awful. But some of the
Yeah,
shots when he's from the front and he's not doing too much, I think it looks fantastic.
that is true.
This is not one of those fantastic shots.
Yeah, that is. I that's the one bad shot, but I do like how his horns kind of go up on a pseudo crest kind of thing.
Mm.
Very, very subtle detail, but it's almost like a lifted part of his skull that I find to be very satisfying. Which is the reason I chose that photo.
Fair, fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's see who we tackling next.
Next will be Drogon. So,
Drogon.
like
Ooh,
Drogon, I think you can make an argument for him being an S because, like you said, Drogon sort of carried mainstream
yeah,
dragons for a long time before they
yeah.
got more mainstream in both, gaming and House of the Dragon and so on and so forth. Like it was essentially just
Hmm.
all Drogon for a long time.
I think Drogon has to be an S. I mean, he's a good dragon design. He's not necessarily the most creative, especially his siblings, where they all just look like him.
Yeah, they
But
just reskinned him.
yeah, he's like, but he's just too iconic to not be. He's done too much heavy lifting with the influencing of what a dragon is in pop culture that you can't not have him in the S tier.
Yeah, no, agreed. One thing you said earlier that I really like as well is how all the Hot D dragons have massive keels for the
Hmm.
pectoral muscles so they can fly. I think that's just such a nice detail to have.
It
So,
is.
if you like
I
zoology or anatomy, like, yes, I know why that's so good.
exactly. The only thing with Drogon I wished is that his he didn't have such a sucked in stomach from the keel. So it
He
doesn't look
has
like
quite a
just a
snatched
ball.
waist, yeah.
He does have a snatched waist, which does make him look shredded, which is cool when he's
Got
flying.
these Z's on that as impic.
Exactly. Maybe exactly. Maybe he's not eating enough sheep. But
He's not. He needs the calcium dusted sheep.
exactly. Somebody get sheep stealer out here. But
Yeah.
if he had a slight like that's nitpicking honestly, but if he had a slight like less dramatic stomach suck, he's like perfect. And honestly, he's perfect for what he's supposed to be too. It's not like he's in How to Train Your Dragon where he needs to stand out among like 30 other dragons.
Yeah,
He's like
like
the yeah,
that's
he's
the
the
thing
dragon.
where yeah, if you have one, you can sort of ease things back a bit. If you have a lot of them, you need to really make each of them stand out from the rest.
Yeah,
And in
because
that regard,
exactly.
Drogon is a simple meal well made.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a nice, well crafted piece of bread.
Mm.
Like I'll eat it with butter and all that, but
And
he's
that's
not
all you need,
necessarily.
yeah.
It's all you need. He's satisfying. You write a good note to the chef. You say thank you very much. He's not necessarily the most unique thing, but for what he is, he's perfect in his role in the story. He's just the dragon.
Yeah, it's like if you're doing sort of like a mass appeal fantasy, you almost need, and you only have like one dragon or one type of dragon, you almost need it to
Yeah,
slot into a
exactly.
certain benchmark. You can't have it be too weird, or then people are probably gonna just get confused and think it's not a dragon or something.
Yeah, if he looked like something crazy, you'd be like, okay, what? You know,
Yeah,
like if he looked like any one of the crazier How to Train Your Dragon species, like the scorpion looking ones, you'd say, okay, calm down.
yeah, it's alien or
But
something.
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, he's the dragon. Kind of like this is a crazy pull, but the dragon from Shrek. That's the
Hey,
only
all the same,
dragon
we
in
should have
there.
put that one in here.
That is true. She would have been S tier right away.
Exactly.
Um, but she's great because she's just your standard red dragon. She's not even doing the realistic thing. She has tiny little wings and the big gut. She's like the fairy
Opposite
tale dragon.
of Drogon in a way.
Exactly the very opposite of Drogon. Yet for some reason fills a very similar role.
Yeah, no,
Kind of.
she's the
Yeah.
classic dragon, yeah, of
Yeah.
threat.
Exactly. All right. Let's see. I think we're good on
On
Drogon. What do you think?
yes, then I agreed. On to the first fantasy made real.
Oh
So this
boy.
is the European. I think it's called the European dragon. I can't actually remember.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
Yeah. Something basically just European dragon.
Where do you feel like putting him?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it's
Do you,
quite good.
I do think it's good for, especially for a hexapod dragon.
But at the same time, one thing I do sort of feel is for the sort of fantasy made real thing, it maybe didn't sort of animalize them enough. But I think in a way the prehistoric dragon had a bit more
Uh huh.
freedom in that regard, and it wound up, for me personally, I think it's the more enjoyable one. Whereas
I
these
agree.
ones, they just didn't get as much to do, I think. But they're still
Yeah.
pretty
From
cool.
from what I remember from
Oh,
that
mountain dragon. People are
European
saying in the chat, yeah.
mountain dragon, yeah, there it is. The mountain dragon, I feel like very all it really did was like hang out in that cave and like
Die.
get get killed.
Did the
Uh,
knights kill it, or did it starve? Because there was two of
I,
them they found in the fake documentary, wasn't it? It was like the mother and
yeah,
the
I
youngster.
don't remember. There was I know that they last I remember is they were like they had the swords and all that good stuff and they were going to kill it. I don't remember if it got caved in. It probably did. That's probably the reason it survived
Maybe yeah, maybe
or
they blocked it
survived.
in there and they starved or something. I really should have
That's
watched a lot more of this mission before we made this tier list.
that's actually so true. But we're just going on vibes or
Just going on
something.
vibes and
But
memory, yeah.
I like the head design of it actually quite a bit. Um, the spikes coming off in that sort of dinosaur head shape that's also doesn't necessarily read dinosaur at first look. It's very nice, and especially the way that the rest of the body is kind of built with that almost rectangular
Mm.
sort of torso. It looks strange, and the tail being very thin kind of puts the weight distribution back at the center. And I think that a hexapod, like a real hexapod, would be very strange. Maybe his wings are a little too small or like wimpy to push him off the ground, but it works for what he's doing. I do like that the male and female had different colors. That is another thing.
And what did the
Uh,
male look like again? I've forgotten he was even in it.
the male was green with an orange stripe on his torso
Oh,
and on his
cool.
wings. Yeah, the female was brown with the same orange markings.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I liked that quite a bit. One of my irks about this series is most of them, except for like the prehistoric dragon, kind of had the same face. Like
Yeah, like the marine one and the Asian
the
one, it was
yes,
just effectively almost like they took the wings off and then they just had the Asian one swim and that was the marine one.
yes, and they made him blue and called it a day. And it was like just not great. You'd think for a documentary on dragons, you would maybe try to. This kind of goes back to what we just said. If there's multiple species or multiple dragons in a setting, you need to make them stand out.
Hmm.
Uh, these guys were just like Drogon level recolors of each other. Maybe not as dramatic as that, but um, still, I mean, there's one star that they obviously focused on, and it's the main guy and the
Hmm.
prehistoric dragon. But
Yeah, the prehistoric one was really cool.
I liked him. I probably should have put him on here.
Oh no, he's
But I
on
wanted
there.
like, oh, prehistoric's on here.
Yeah.
Oh, I see him. Okay, we'll get to him then. But
Well, maybe
yeah,
B.
the B for mountain dragon.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. It
Alright,
feels
cool.
like a B.
As well, chat told me as well, apparently like there was a knight and the knight killed the mother, I'm reading.
Oh.
Alright. The adult died along with the knight that killed the daughter. Alright, okay, cool. I
Yeah,
think
the
that's what
dragon
happened.
dummy is wonderful. I will
It
give you
is,
that.
yeah, that was such a good prop.
Yeah. And there's a someone said, "Are Rain of Fire dragons on here? Are they?"
Yes, they are. They are
Okay, cool.
behind the horntail.
Awesome. Awesome. I was gonna say that's basically Drogon, but we'll get to him.
We'll get to them,
Who's
yeah.
up next?
The fat one from Dungeons and Dragons. Thembertrode, I think
All
his
right.
name is.
I have not seen this movie.
Have you not?
Um, I have
To be
not,
fair,
but
a
I've
lot of people
seen.
didn't because they market it too much as like a Marvel humor film. And I think a
Uh,
lot of people were already done with it before it came out. And then I watched it on a
now
plane and I was pleasantly surprised.
I do intend to watch it at some point. I just haven't really gotten to that. Um,
Mm.
I think he's for what he's supposed to be in his story because I've seen like videos of him rolling around. He's
Fat
a
and
really
comedic,
nice,
yeah.
yes, he's a very nice twist on what you'd expect a dragon from a D&D movie to be.
Yeah.
Uh, I you thinking what do you think?
And it was like we're saying like we agreed what we're ranking the dragons on is what they bring to the table as a dragon. And as like a fun comic relief dragon, I think
Uh-huh.
he exceeds at what he does. Like you're probably
Yeah,
not going to confuse him with another dragon. And I think
that is big.
they did a very good job as well at like having him in live action, but not having the
Yeah.
live action cancel out the comedy, which I think is a big thing with like, going from live action to from animation,
Oh
because it's
yeah,
so much
that's
easier to do
true.
like ludicrous things in animation than it is live action. But they pulled that off
Also,
very well.
yeah. And he's not like a lot of times when you get like a live action remake of like an animation or something, they sort of sand down the design and like
Yeah.
dull it out and it becomes stiffer almost. You know, yeah, I think he's at the very least an A.
Yeah, let's put him an A. I don't think he's quite influential enough for S, but he's good
Yeah, he has.
enough that
Yeah,
he's A.
yeah. People aren't still talking about him, but people talk of him fondly when they do.
Hmm. Yeah, he's there to have fun,
Hmm.
and he has a role like what he brings to the table. Like it's not a big influential thing that he brings, but what he does bring, he does it very well.
Yeah, yeah. Good dragon to watch. Nice and fresh. All right.
Hmm.
Let's see.
So
Next
next
we
up we
have
have
Fate.
Fatalis or Fatalis. I always just say Fatalis
Fatalis.
first.
Fatalis.
Yeah, no, it sounds horrible. But like I mentioned it in chat before we
Hmm.
started this, but I think in the greater context of like this list, Fatalis actually comes across quite low because
Yeah,
in the context of his world, he's a lot, but he's like the main source of fantasy and and that sort of vibe that he brings in a very
yeah.
natural and grounded world. But as a result, when you compare him to essentially the other dragons in this list, he much more comes across almost as generic instead. Like
Yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
bring that
He
uniqueness that the other Monster Hunters have because he is the fantastical one. And when other people
yeah,
do fantasy and lean more into it, yeah.
he's really cool when you line him up with the other crazy dragons in Monster Hunter. But as a dragon, if I watched him, he's a great design. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic design. Anything Capcom does, really, most of what they do
Mm.
is a great design. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I was watching a movie or reading a book and you could insert him into any of those fairy tales. You could tell me he's Beowulf's dragon. You could tell me he's any of them, and I would be like, okay. I mean, he's Smog, but not as good as how Smog did it.
Mm.
He runs out, he destroys a city or a country or what the lore was,
Yeah,
and
he's like he blows up Castle Straight and that I think that sort of buggers over that particular kingdom, and then he just sleeps in the ruins and doesn't
yeah,
do
like
much
that.
else until he wakes up.
He's a Smog
Yeah,
in his story,
essentially.
which is totally okay because I have like two Smog dragons in my own story. So that's like coming from I could recognize when I also pull that
You
trope.
know a Smaug when you see one.
Exactly, I know him. I could sniff him out.
Mm.
But a Smog is a good kind of character to have, but it's not necessarily. If you're going to do a Smog, I prefer when the Smog has something original to bring. In his context, his originality is that he's basic in Monster Hunter. But like you said, in the greater context, he's kind of just an average dragon.
Mm. It's like he's almost like a big fish in a small pond in that regard, in that, as the fantastical dragon of Monster Hunter, he's so powerful, but like I think quite a few of the dragons on this list will just mog him because they are pure fantasy, whereas he's sort of like the big fish in the small pond.
Yeah, exactly. He's cool, but he's not. I mean, I look to other monsters in Monster Hunter when I'm feeling like I want to look at
Yeah.
designs. I
If
don't
you yeah.
necessarily look at him.
So where
Like
should he go?
I say I like where you're hovering at a B.
B. I think B's
It's a
fine
very
for
hot take, but
Catalyst,
I think
yeah.
it's a good
Yeah,
in
like
terms of this list. Yeah,
'cause he's not bad, but he's also just not quite the heights of some of the other dragons here.
someone here said he stands upright. Not many dragons stand. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and correct that. A
Ooh.
lot of fairy tale dragons stand. He's kind of like your really classic storybook dragon, where oftentimes they're drawn. They have the big horns on their head. They stand on their back legs and rear out their front, kind of like a rearing horse. He's kind of like a manuscript dragon in that way. So he's like that's a fairly standard dragon thing. They became four-legged a little bit later, um, not much longer after, but still, the two-legged thing, the two-legged hexapod or bipedal hexapod is a little more classic than even the Draco style quadruped. I would argue. Maleficent is one of them. Yeah, someone in there said.
Oh yeah, like the cartoon dragon. I've
Yeah,
not seen like the
exactly.
Angelina Jolie Maleficent, but I assume she doesn't turn into a dragon into that.
I don't know. I haven't seen that since I was young. I think her like crow character, like sidekick, does, if I'm
Mm.
remembering correctly. But the cartoon Maleficent is the one I'm talking about.
What film
The
is
the really
that?
good, the really
Is
awesome
that
one.
Snow White?
Is it?
Like which of the original
Is
Disney
it?
films?
Is it?
I can't
Or is
remember.
it? No, is it Sleeping Beauty?
It might be Sleeping Beauty. Because I remember at the end, like, doesn't he throw the sword at the dragon and it keels over the cliff and dies? And
Yeah,
the chat is
yeah.
telling me
You
it's
know
Sleeping
what?
Beauty.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty. Okay, how about that? I know my Disney princesses. Let's go.
That you do. There's some lot that I haven't actually seen. I think my parents, if I saw them, they'd tell me gay or something.
Yeah, the pain.
I know.
Yeah, I like where we placed him
Right, yeah, I think he's good in
at a
B.
B, a solid B. Yeah,
But
someone said him being malicious kind of ruins it, and I can actually agree with that. Um, but yeah, let's move to the next guy.
yeah, Rathalos. So I think Rathalos
Oh,
is
there you
A at
go.
least, arguably S, because
I mhm.
he is like the naturalized dragon. He is the sort of the dragon as an animal, where
Yeah,
obviously he is still a dragon, but he's got so much about him. Like he's got so much lore, he's got so much behavior. His
I think
repeat
he's an S.
appearances, yeah, I'm gonna say S as
Yeah,
well.
he's iconic like the other two in there. Um, like he's showed up in every game. Most people who know of like video games or this kind of video game knows who Rathalos is. They might not know who the other dragons are. Like if you showed a non-fan Rathalos, they're probably gonna say, "Oh, is that like Monster Killer or something?" You're gonna say, "Oh, yeah, well, Monster Hunter," but yes,
Beast Slayer, yeah.
Beast Slayer. Yeah, he he's just cool. He's iconic. Like you said, he's the naturalized dragon. He's an eagle with scales and strange human ears. And I think he's
Mm.
cool for it.
And I like just he's been in the series for so long, so he's got so many things that have just been added to him. Like
Yeah,
they've got the mobile lips now, so they can emote a little bit more. Like just
he's
all the
like
lore he's
exactly.
continuously gotten, his relations with other monsters.
He's got the
He's
perfect lore too with him and
mm,
Rathian.
yeah,
The it's
absolutely.
not over the top. That's what it is too. They call he has like a big name, King of the Skies. But when you actually look at him, he's not that crazy of like a monster. He's not like an edge lord like kills everyone in one shot. He's like he's like an osprey kind of in the
Mm,
sense that, or like other large eagle. He he sits in his nest. He defends his nest. His female counterpart guards the eggs there at the nest. They do different things. The dimorphism is really
mm,
cool.
yeah.
Uh, it adds a lot of variety to both encounters and to lore. You get like a two-in-one monster. He he can be slain, but he's also like he feels like a powerful animal, and he doesn't turn into like an edge lord OC.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
No, he
like
belongs in
Rathalos in
S.
here.
No, we do. Like, I think there's definitely like a period where people are like, oh, he's no one's favorite monster, he sucks, so on and so forth. But I definitely think I just think, especially after Rise, where many regarded his fight as improved, he had a bit of a
Yeah,
renaissance, and now the sort of, at least some desire for contrarianism has gone down. People are more willing to accept, like, and I think just the fact people have realized he's not going away. Like some of the newcomers were like, why is he in every game? Before he's realizing he's the series flagship, and now,
yeah.
yeah, he's
It's like
generally more accepted.
yeah, like why is he in every game? Well, why is Mickey Mouse in every park? Like come on. Yeah, we like him in this house.
That we do. We love a bit of Rathalos.
Let's see. Someone that said Fatalis bodies most of these dragons with ease. Well, that's why we don't like him. No
Does
one
he?
likes a Mary Sue.
I'm not sure he does, but we're
Maybe
not
not
power
all of
scaling
them.
here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I hate power scaling. Oh my
Yeah.
god. But anyway, yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's the Red Death from How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh
Where are we
yeah, I
putting
love
her?
him. He or her. Yeah, her.
I always thought it was a her, because like, don't they refer to it as
I
the
think.
Queen or something?
Yeah, I think they kind of used both in the first movie, and then in the second one, they sort of like confirm that. They say Red Death is the queen, Bewilderbeast is the king.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I want to say A because
Mm.
I don't know. Well, see, that's my own bias because I like Red Death. I
Yeah,
like its
it's my favorite
design.
dragon in that particular series.
Yes, it's got the. I love the nose horn. I love the giant nostrils and tiny eyes. It's like my kind of
Mm.
my mojo. The
I
big club
love
tail is
the
cool.
shape of the mouth as well. It's like a bowhead
Yes,
whale, and I think that's really cool.
yes. Yes, the whale mouth and the roar, that almost whale groan of a roar.
Mm.
Oh, amazing! And like the whole secret features, like the eyes that open up the two other sets,
Yeah.
and then the wings that peel off the back. It was like different boss fight phases. It was awesome. And actually, it did have influence beyond its first movie.
Did
Uh,
it?
the chase of the Red Death was referenced in the
Oh
Vagar
yes, it
chase.
was. Yeah, they watched that, didn't they? And you can see that
Yeah,
with like little Arax zipping around in the clouds. Except
yeah,
that was
exactly.
how that fight probably would have gone down.
I wonder. Yeah, right. But I wonder um, if that influence puts her in A. Yeah, I want to say A because it was a pretty big influence, and it's a really cool dragon, probably the coolest in that first movie if you don't count Toothless.
Oh,
Um,
I think yeah, Red Death is my favorite from like all the How to Train Your Dragons. I
yeah,
think I've
not
never
quite as
seen any of
iconic.
them all the way through. I think it's taken
Uh,
like multiple viewings to see the first one, and I think I've only seen like half of the second, and I haven't seen very much of the third.
well, I
But
don't blame you.
Red Death still sweeps.
Yes, I agree. We love Red Death in this house.
I think as well, the whale mouth might have come because I think I saw something and they said like they wanted Originally, the Red Death was like longer and more serpentine, and it almost looked like one of the sea dragon seahorses, where it's very long and thin.
Oh yeah,
But I'm going to assume they moved
yeah,
away from that because like it just didn't have like there's so much emphasis on its mass in that final battle, and you
yeah.
wouldn't
Like
have got the same vibe if you had something long and slender, even if it was still
yeah,
massive.
especially when she hauls up in the sky for that first time. Like, because Toothless's whole thing is being light and zippy, and to have that contrast really sells it. The whale mouth is just perfect. If she was skinny, she wouldn't be like at all in my ranking.
Yeah, I think you're happy with A.
Yeah, I like an A.
So
Let's see, we
Smaug.
Smog. Oof, Smog is or Smaug
I am
is.
gonna launch with S, but what do you say?
I was gonna say that too. I think
Okay,
that
cool.
character in general, like regardless of the design you use, Smog is like the influential dragon.
Mm,
Like even more like Smog is what leads to all of the other ones in S as the
yeah,
first like literary dragon that is
he's
of the modern age.
he's like sort of every sort of Germanic and Arthurian folklore dragon, just sort of all those tropes sort of mashed into one. And then yeah,
Exactly.
put in the Hobbit, which was I think the best sort of choice of Tolkien's books to have him. But yeah,
Yes.
no, very influential. Like he's such an enjoyable character, both in the book and the
Oh, I love him
film.
in the book.
Mm,
In the book, he's so fun when he like leaves a trail of slime when he walks. Like, oh my god, like that is the coolest thing. Or even in the '70s cartoon of The Hobbit when he looks like a cat.
oh,
I've
that really
really
weird
grown.
one, yeah.
I've
Where it's
really
got the
warmed up.
main beam eyes as well.
Exactly. Like I used to think like as a kid, right? I never liked mammalian dragons and preferred them very reptilian. I still do, right? Like I still draw very reptilian dragons if I had the
Mm,
choice.
mm.
But I've come to appreciate all kinds of like dragon reps, especially Cat Smog. Like I watched that movie again, which is a beautiful movie because it's very succinct, it's very to the point. It doesn't draw itself out. And when he shows up, he's almost like yeah, he's a fat cat. That's Smog. He has the he sits on his
And that's
treasure.
what he
He's
is,
like
isn't he? He is literally like, when
yeah,
people refer to like a businessman as a fat cat, that's what Smaug is. He
exactly,
sits on his money all
exactly.
day and kills anyone who tries to take it.
Exactly, and he's like, it's perfect for him, and like the way he's voice acted too, very like he just couldn't be bothered. He's like a huge Garfield. He's his stomach and like his abdomen in general is just so huge compared to even the rest of him that it's like yeah, he sat here. I could believe it that he sat here for hundreds of years.
He's just that
Uh,
lazy, yeah.
yeah, the movie one, the for the live action is
Peter
almost too
Jackson's.
athletic. Yeah, Peter Jackson's. He's almost too like athletic to believably be sitting there for hundreds of years. But that's the only thing I'll say because that design, when I was young, I was probably like 12 or 13 when that came out, and I went in to watch that knowing that that dang dragon was in there. I was like shaking in my seat. I was so excited. And when, of course, he showed up on the screen, he did not disappoint between the Benedict Cumberbatch voice and the acting and the way he moves and looks on the screen. That changed my life, man.
Yeah, like that. He's the best thing about those films easily.
Easy.
Yeah,
He's
I
the only
also
reason I
remember that
watched him.
first trailer where you see his head come around the pillar and you're like, oh, that's what it
Yes,
looks like.
exactly. That was for hype alone. That was just amazing. He's the best part of that movie.
And yeah,
He,
the voice
he
acting is so enjoyable as well.
yeah. Even the way that they make him uh, like in that art book where they talk about designing him, when they changed him from a hexabod to a four limbed dragon,
Yeah.
part of that was for his body acting, where he could move around with his wings, but also with the fingers at the end, he could sort of do these Shakespearean hand movements, like when he's like pulling the treasure up and running it between his fingers and things like
Mm.
that. And it read a little easier that way rather than if you had to pay attention to the wings and the hands and the neck and the tail. And reads easier at first glance, and I agree with that. It helps him look snaky and serpentine, which goes really well with his depiction in that movie being this sort of slippery, smooth tongued, but also very insecure kind of dragon.
Yeah, like his reaction when Bilbo sees the missing scale and he's like, "What did you just say?" It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, nothing."
exactly. Or when he hears Barrel Rider and he puts together
Yeah,
the
like he's like,
uh
"Oh, go on."
yeah, he goes, "Oh,
Like,
you're one of those miserable lake men," and then he like goes on this rant, and I'm like, "Holy crap, dude, get a grip!"
yeah, it's like they've done nothing to you. You need to chill out. Like,
Yeah, like he's losing his mind, and I guess if you're sitting on that much money and you're a dragon and you can't put it into a bank account, I would also be very insecure, especially with little hobbits that run in and take barrels in the comments. Exactly.
no, it is
And of
interesting.
course, the fact that you have to call him the crazy titles.
Mm. Yeah, and
It's
it said
just
in the book, like, this is the way you speak to a dragon. Like, you always flatter
yeah,
him, and you only ever speak in riddles. And yeah,
yeah,
it's I think they communicated that quite well into the film.
yes. And it was just amazing and so fun and so like it's just cool to watch Bilbo try to like sweet talk this dragon and just having it barely work.
Yeah, like there's some shots where he like just narrows his eyes at Bilbo as he's complimenting him. The veil is starting to slip, and he's like, "Oh yeah, try
Yeah,
to your
like
shit."
like he Smog probably thinks the whole thing is bullshit from the get go,
Yeah, like
but
that last one didn't
uh,
hit.
yeah, and the only reason, like I think he says it himself, he goes like, "Our game is done." Like he's just
He's bored,
entertaining.
yeah. Like I think I
I'd be
read
bored too.
in one of the magazines or something, one of the many interviews, because obviously The Hobbit was massive when it came out. They said like
Hmm.
they sort of interpreted Smaug and his personality and his behavior as someone who's bored. And when
Yeah,
Bilbo enters, he's like, "Oh, cool. Like obviously I'm gonna eat him, but I want to play with my food first because I've had nothing to do for like a decade."
exactly. Again, like a cat.
Mm. Because in
Cat
the
Smog is the
book, like
yeah,
like it's said that he can actually leave whenever he wants. Like he actually leaves to
yeah,
eat their horses at one point, and
exactly.
whereas in the
Y-
film, it's much more like it's a bit more of an event when he actually wakes up, when he actually moves again, which I think
Yeah,
does
like
work better actually.
I do agree. I think him leaving like casually. I used to think that him leaving casually was a little more interesting, but as I've matured, I've realized that I prefer the monumentalness of him leaving, especially uh, when they did that thing where they covered him in gold, and he has this grand exit where he does the whole like twirl in the air and everything. You're
Mm.
like, oh yeah, this is going down. It's
Oh
not just a
yeah.
casual like I'm running to the grocery store to go eat on some lake men.
He has to break himself out of his own fortress.
Yeah, like he grew too big and too fat to sit on that gold, and he has to almost escape it.
Yeah,
Now
I
we're talking.
I think
Yeah.
the ending was a bit
Oh, you
clowny.
kidding? Yeah,
The-
totally. I was so mad. He
But
just says the line, and
I think
yeah,
he pulls it back in sort of the Lake Town attack to start with, and then the bit with the kid is really weird. But I do like his final lines where he sees Bard's bow is broken. It's like, oh my, what are you going to do
yes,
now?
that was strangely him attacking Lake Town is some of his strongest and also some of his weakest appearance.
Yeah,
Weak because it was so brief. Like like when I went to go watch that movie for the first time, I feel like I just sat down. You just get settled. The popcorn is like still, you're still focused on that, and you're like, oh wait, Smoke died.
yeah, no, it's yeah,
Like you
yeah,
barely get to savor his malicious delivery because he's like right away attacking. And I can understand why you would start a movie with that. It's a very strong opener, but it almost feels like you're starting at the last chapter and
mm,
then starting another book right after. It's like kind of like I don't know. I would have preferred if that kind of closed itself neatly in the second film.
yeah. It was just the Hobbit films are a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah,
They're
that's
they're
why
not.
I
I
kind
don't
of
think they're
come.
quite as bad as some people say they are. The third one,
No, they're
maybe,
not.
but they
Yeah,
are messy.
they are messy. I don't even rewatch the third one. Occasionally, I'll watch the second one for Smog. Sometimes the first because I like the cozy vibes in Hobbiton.
Hmm.
And the Smeagol scene is great in the first one.
And
But
I think the final Warg attack isn't bad either. A lot of people don't like Azog, but I think the first film he's not bad. It's only really
yeah,
the
no, I
third
agree.
one where he's just a bit pointless.
I agree. I yeah, I mean, as I've grown, I've come to prefer the cartoon over the Peter Jackson one, which is kind of crazy because I still love the Peter Jackson one for all kinds of reasons,
Wow.
like the creature design and the armors. But something about how succinct it is, and the background art is gorgeous in the cartoon.
I've
Um,
not seen the cartoon, I admit.
you totally should. It's like an hour if even.
Hmm.
Um, very short. They got cute little songs in there like Goblin Town. It's awesome. They sing a song about roasting the dwarves and watching their skin crack as as they're lighting the pine cones and stuff. It's crazy. It's a great movie. I do recommend you watch it if you can, at least just for the art of it.
Perhaps I will pay
It's
them a
a
visit.
Yeah, it's a great piece of art, um, and very rewatchable compared to three-hour long movies.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I feel we've lingered on Smog for a while.
we
Let's keep it
have.
rolling.
Next up is Cyrax,
All
but is
right,
she going
so
in
D
C or
or
D?
F?
D or F? Like, she's still a
I'm gonna.
hot D dragon, so she's not awful, but she's like the worst one in hot D.
She's the worst of like the best,
The major
and
dragons, yeah.
um,
I'm gonna put her in
um,
D for now, but she's also tied to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra drags her down. But Rhaenyra's just become sort of, she's almost like the symbol of just everything wrong with hot D right now.
yeah, let's put her in D. Oh, hey, we got $2. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
That's
thank you.
very kind.
Who's
That's very
Grigori?
kind. Yeah, that's
I
very
feel
kind.
like
We,
I.
we
No, it is very kind. Thank you.
yeah, Grigori. We'll talk about him. Um, he's excellent. Basically, that's my opinion on him. That's what someone said. D for uh,
D for
House of the
hot tea,
Dragon.
yeah, no, that's how it's going,
Let's
isn't
see.
it?
Uh, let's see. Yeah, Grigori is just amazing, and I agree. We will talk about him. We should probably put him in eventually, but I want to talk about Cyrax. I wanna
Yeah,
rip into Cyrax a little. Um,
just a very boring dragon. Like the one thing she
yeah.
has that's properly interesting is sort of the like the carving on the horn, but that's something you would only know if you like read the design
Oh
notes.
my god, I was gonna say that literally. The horn carving is such a great idea, and I never noticed it ever until someone told me. I'm like, well, that's not good design. That's almost where it's too like that's something you fall into. Like I said before, like a live action creature that's supposed to look real is almost sanded down to the point where you can't recognize cool things. I bet you if Cyrax was in an animation, you would see those runes like crazy.
Hmm.
But because she's a live action, they go, we got to make it look like carving in bark. But then that uh, fights with the natural scaly texture of the horns, and you don't see anything. Like that's my big thing with her, and the fact that she's like, I like the wing design, I like the tail design, I like her sort of more stout horse-like posture, but she doesn't do anything, like especially compared to the others. Uh, I wanted to see her whole thing as being a spoiled dragon. I want to see her
Hmm.
being spoiled,
Yeah,
like
like
that.
in the book,
Yeah,
she's fat. Like she gets old and
yeah,
well, not old, but she gets fat and spoiled. She's like a house cat dragon.
yes. I
But I
want
think
to
Ryan
see.
Condal is just so obsessed with Rhaenyra that he's sort of obsessed with Cyrax by association.
Yeah, like Cyrex, I want to see her in Dragonstone, like an overweight dragon that is. I want to see all the eggs too. They say she's like a brood mother, and I want to see Cyrex sitting on mountains of dragon eggs, or whatever, like doing what they say she does, rather than me learning about that after watching the show. Because when you watch the show, she's just like a dragon that's flying around, squawking, and then that's it.
Yeah,
Like
and they give us
you don't
so
really
many
get anything.
scenes where it's so clear they're so impressed with what they've done. They really want you to clear and to cheer and clap. And yeah, they just don't really write anything to give you a reason to do so.
Yeah, like even the other dragons have similar screen time in that they're like kind of brief, but they do their jobs better. Vagar does an excellent job being brief,
Mm.
if not being a one-trick pony that we'll get to later. But
Oh.
uh, Caraxes, I mispronounced that, but whatever. Caraxes, he shows up very briefly, but he always brings a pow every time he shows up. He's always slipping around and sliding on the screen. He's cool. He does because he's brutal, so he is brutal on screen. Uh, Cyrax is a fat cat like Smog, but not quite like Smog. But like a purse chihuahua. Yet I never see any of that. She's trying to be like Caraxes in the thing where she's flying around, but I don't see any of what makes her shine.
What would you have her do?
Oh, well, like I said, I'd have
Rhaenyra's
uh
fated line.
maybe yeah, right. I would probably have like incorporate her into another scene where like you see her in Dragonstone being a spoiled cat.
Yeah,
Like
like if they want
show
endless Cyrax scenes, they can have them, but it's just like, oh, like it should function to inform of her personality
yeah,
from the
like
books rather than everyone cheers, Cyrax
exactly.
is on screen.
Yeah, especially since Cyrax is a very boring dragon visually. She's all yellow with no texture variance. She's
She
all
is
the
the most
same like
boring dragon in House of the Dragon.
yes. Even her horns,
Mm.
they lay so flat against her head that they don't register to me as part of her design, like as a silhouette. And that just kind of she's boring. She's simple. There's nothing really to look at.
Like
So I
even
wish
the
they
other infant dragons, well, Cyrax isn't an infant, but like Vermax and well, Vermax
yeah,
doesn't really do much, but Arax is quite cool in that, like, he's white, he's brand new, like, he's very
exactly,
small and shy and nervous. He's got so much personality in his design and the glimpses you see of him. But yeah, Cyrax is
exactly.
just, yeah, she doesn't really do anything.
She's kind of like a Mary Sue dragon, where it's
She
like yeah, like you
she
said, she
barely
shows up,
has
you
a
clap.
bond with Rhaenyra as well. Like, I think they show that with Daemon and Caraxes very well, but they
Yeah,
completely flop with Rhaenyra and Cyrax.
they have that scene where they're feeling each other's pain,
Oh
but
yeah, in
yeah,
the first season finale, but that's a bit
yes,
hackneyed, I
but I
think.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's like it could be better. I want some of Cyrax like lounging in Dragonstone and being fed whole roast chickens. I want to see her. I want to see them collecting eggs from Cyrax instead of talking about it. Like, what if they lift up like her wing, or like if she's brooding like a big fat chicken, and you have to sort of push her to the side, and then there's like a bunch of eggs. Like, I think if I had a huge chicken, this giant gray monster, and she would get real broody. And when collecting eggs from her, which she'd have like 5 under her at a time, you'd try to nudge her and lift her, and she'd like hiss at you, but she still would let you nudge her. So you go and you gather the eggs and you say, "Thank you for the eggs, girl. You know, have a good one." And then you go inside and make an omelet. But I want to see that
Eat her
with
kids in
her.
front of her.
Yeah, right, or something. You know, some more of that domesticness that they keep talking about with her. That's my
Yeah,
big critique. Like contrast her simple colors because she has no pattern, she has no texture or anything. But if she had a vivid personality, that could cover for all of that.
yeah,
And
but she doesn't,
that's
and she has a terrible rider as well.
yes,
Most
that
boring
is my
character in the show.
yes, that's my and oh god, especially the finale of season 2 when she just goes
Oh my
Cyrax
god.
just yaps.
Yeah.
like like I get it. Having a dragon roar in your finale is so cool, but did it have to be Cyrax's squawk?
Mm.
Like like Vagar's roar 2 seconds before was badass and like guttural and deep. And then you get like, the
The
I'm like, all
squeak,
right,
yeah.
the squeak. I'm like, okay, okay.
Also, we have a
Uh,
super chat. Thank you very much.
oh,
Uh,
thank you.
who's Bale? Do you know who Bale is?
Bale, yeah, I know him. I haven't played the game, but he's from Elden Ring, the DLC. He's a dragon
Ooh, I've
that,
not played Elden Ring.
yeah, well, he's got actually a really cool concept behind him where he's kind of, I heard that he's sort of referencing Balerion
Oh, is he? Is
in
he the?
that,
I might have seen him. Is he like the big dying one?
yeah, with like
Oh yeah, no, I do
the
know him.
fiery, yeah. He's cool. I like that he's super wounded and losing a wing. He's got the wyvern body plan, but then he totally subverts that with his like magic, where he sprouts a ghost pair of wings on his back. So now he's got like the bones from his forewing turned into like a sword, and it's like this crazy, like you wouldn't even think design,
That's pretty
which is a
cool.
pretty dang cool, like really well thought out. Um, I would put him pretty high. I haven't
Hmm.
played the game, so I wouldn't know, but I would definitely put him pretty
I've only
high
seen
on
him
that
in
list.
sleepy mode.
Yeah, he's pretty badass. I like when he takes off, um, like and he sprouts these fake. Like you see him like kind of limping around as this mangled dragon, and then all of a sudden he's youthful again with his ghost wings, and it's like, oh crap, here he comes.
That's a story thing that happens because I watched a friend play it and he was just sort of lying there dead. So is it like a story thing that makes him wake up and he becomes a boss fight or?
Yeah, something like that. I'd have to watch a playthrough or see my brother play it or something. And yeah, Bale the Dread. Yeah, that's his title
And thank you
according to
again
the
for the
super
super
chat.
chat.
Which thank you. Yeah, you're pretty awesome for all that. Thank you.
Mm,
Uh, but yeah, Bale the Dread. Very cool name.
mm.
Um, yeah, I think I've kind of massacred Cyrax enough. What do you say?
Yes, agreed. There's more to read about with Hot D as well. Where do you
Yes, I
want to put
agree.
Toothless?
Um, I'm sitting between A or S for a set reason, and I'm going to explain.
I'll put A because I don't really care for
A,
Toothless.
I would say, yeah, put him at A for now. I think the only reason I would flirt with S is because he popularized the dragons or dogs trope,
Yes.
and which you see all over the place now. Every dragon in a story, more often than not, they're going to be like a dog or a companion, and it's all because of him. Um, he is influential in that way, but I feel, yeah, I like to keep him at A, and I think because as he goes on,
He
he's
just
like
gets
a
more
he's
and
like
more
a like
glazed.
yes, yeah, he gets more glazed, he gets more dull. He had a strong opening and he overstayed his welcome. He should have been like a Night Fury, did his huge blast shot, and then gotten the hell out of here. Like not sticking around. He kind of, How to Train Your Dragon makes such a point about how all these dragons have different stats and do different things, and you pick the dragon that you want to train based on the different things that they could do. But then they proceed to do none of that and kind of all do what each other do, according to what the plot needs. It could either be like Godzilla power ups, or they all fly at the same speed. Even the Gronkles keeping up with Toothless in like the TV shows. It's like insane. Um, Toothless, I think. I wish I just saw less power ups and more of just him using his speed and intelligence like he did against the Red Death. Like, that's it. I mean, I don't like the Super Saiyan mode he did against the Bewilderbeast. I like the split spine. That was cool, but not the alpha mode. Uh, the blue glow, too, cheesy. The lightning cloak in the third movie took that right from the Skrill. They could have had a Skrill do that on the screen and we could have been like, wow. But just because he's the unholy offspring of lightning and death doesn't mean he needs to use lightning. That's like, lightning was referencing his speed, not like his strike power, not necessarily his his abilities, I think. You know?
I think as well, like the goofiness of the kids' film it is, like calling him the unholy offspring of lightning and death, and then having it being like a cat on wings, is an interesting choice.
I think that particular choice is okay because it's almost humorous, right? Like you get, and that's something I realized a lot with that first movie is even the names of the dragons are like over the top, like monstrous nightmare, like that. What a name,
Yeah,
Uh, and it's like these almost dramatically, insanely violent names. And when he goes through the book and he says, chokes its victims,
like
buries its
burn
victims,
them. Yeah.
the whole thing, turns them inside out. Like it's just so over the top. And then that, I assume, is written from the Viking bias, where when you get to know the dragon, they're not actually that bad. Um, that's kind of my takeaway from that. But then they kind of also kind of backtrack on that, and you say, well, yeah, the monstrous nightmare is named in a pit of like bias from a Viking, and then you look at it and it's toothy and spiky and setting itself on fire, and you know what? Maybe it is a monstrous nightmare. Like
Yeah, like if
for a
you're,
night,
if you're a normal person, you're not really gonna want to engage with it, I guess.
yeah, like it would almost read clearer. That message would read clearer if you read the unholy offspring of lightning and death, and then it was Book Toothless, who is like terrible terror. And it's like, oh yeah, that's funny. I see that contrast, but he just doesn't. I don't know. I like his design at least. I think he's cute and he's supposed to be cute, and so he's good at that. I like that he's a cat, kind of. Dragons are very cat-like. He does the smog thing in that sense, but a little more direct. Uh, I don't necessarily. We actually had this conversation the other day. When he loses his tail fin and he suddenly can't fly at all, I can't necessarily buy that.
Yeah, he
Um,
feels such a minor injury that just completely disables him is harsh
like
to
yeah,
take. Like that he needs to be in
like
pristine condition or he essentially rolls over dead.
yeah, like I guess you can argue that he's a glass cannon and that he's super strong, he gets hit once and then he dies. But then in the rest of the movies, he gets hit with worse stuff and then shrugs it off. Like, how did getting buried in ice not take his other fin if hitting a tree did it the first time? Um, it's like power scaling with himself, but they don't tell you directly. They just kind of say, "Oh yeah, now he's Godzilla." Um, he like the other dragons fly with less. I mean, Natters don't even have any fins; they just have wings. Gronkles have fucking uh, bee wings,
Yeah.
and he could fly and Toothless can't. Like, I like the message of like rehabilitating the disabled dragon and flying with him again. There was another art stream I was on uh, with Yashua Noob, and he redesigned Toothless to be to have no legs at all, where his back fins on his hips
Ooh.
were his were the back legs, like the hip fins, and I thought that was genius. Uh, and we had I told him this on that stream. I said, uh, him getting shot down in the tail and losing a part of that flight structure is so much more believable when he doesn't have the legs to support him on the ground. Uh, because then, I mean, you see in the movie, he's running at like match 10. He would totally be fine in the wild.
Yeah.
Like, he's better off than most like big cats. He's running super fast. He could breathe fire. He could kind of flap around for a little bit. But it's not necessarily a disabled dragon as much as if he didn't have any legs at all. It might not have read as great on like the marketing material if he had no legs, but I think it would have sold the idea better.
One idea I really love as well is like the idea of a swift dragon or something like it, where it's just like completely unbeatable in the air and it's dependent on the air as its, environment, and as a result it's completely
Yes.
useless on the ground.
Yes. I agree wholeheartedly. That was a big thing I had with Toothless too, where he's a sniper, he vanishes into the night, and he has a super strong breath attack and the fast speed. Yet somehow he wins the fight against the monstrous nightmare, who's the ground specialist area control guy. And I don't buy it. Like, I think he would be stronger if he would use that distance and that sniper power a little better, striking unseen like lightning, as opposed to always being up in front and center with Hiccup. That might have been Hiccup doing that to him, but I would prefer if he was a little more elusive in his strategy. Even if you see him, maybe if he kept distance instead of getting right in the thick of it.
It's like the arena, isn't it, in the first film?
Yeah, in the arena, he goes right in there and wins against the monstrous nightmare. And there's no way.
And
There's
then
no way.
don't all the
Monstrous,
Vikings like somehow beat him in a fight after that? Like they all dogpile
kind of,
onto
yeah.
him.
They do. He beats a few of them back, but
And he
then
can't
yeah, they
even break out
dogpile.
the wooden thing afterwards.
I know he can't break out of the wooden thing yet. Somehow he's beating monstrous nightmares and bewilder beasts and red deaths and all the things that you need him to do. And he can echolocate in the TV series. It's like it's too much.
Yeah, it was a kids' film though.
It is, and so for that he gets a pass. Uh, but he's a great dragon, and I still love him. But like he's not free from our nitpicking, which is the point of this list. So
Yes. Ah, but let us move on
let's see.
from Toothless
Yes, to the
to
absolute
someone
goat.
else in S, the mother of dragons herself, Vermithrax. Like I've just
Yes, she.
shot ahead, put her in S, because I've
Yeah.
done sort of a little bit of a video on her, which was originally just going to be
Hmm.
her video before I sort of decided there maybe wasn't enough meat on it for the length I wanted. But she is just like, in the same way, like Smaug is sort of the father of more fantastical dragons, more sort of folklorish dragons. She is the sort of the seed that grew dragons into more grounded and more naturalistic forms. Was like all the
Yeah.
reading you can do on how they designed her like as the wyvern.
Oh
They based
yeah,
her on pterosaurs. The way they colored her, like they made the maquette, then they took slate from the canyon they filmed in, and then colored her on that so she was camouflaged. Like, just
absolutely incredible.
yeah, they really
Like
cooked with her.
insane level of forward thinking for such like an early stop motion kind of creature, which would be totally acceptable if they just made it like a retrosaur with wings or like a Maleficent style dragon. It would have landed all the same, but maybe not as hard. I don't think it
Mm,
would have landed as effectively. But putting all that research into it, like you mentioned, the slate with the scales, that's an insane level of detail. That really you could tell that they gave a hell, they gave a crap on how they wanted this dragon to feel, and it rides the line of being stylized yet realistic. It's perfect. It marries those concepts perfectly. It doesn't have too much going on. That's actually a critique I have of some later dragons. Like you can argue Drogon has it, or even Smog to a small degree, where there's so many spikes that you almost can't know what shape that it actually is. You
yeah,
know,
it's a
it's
bit
like if
like
you were
sort
to
of Flood
draw,
Marshall's paleo art, where it gets a bit
yeah,
too
it's
many
like a little
quills, too
too,
many spikes, that it almost looks
yeah,
fuzzy
too,
in a way.
yeah, fuzzy, a little amorphous. Like if you told me to imagine Smog, I'd say, yeah, he's spiky, but I'm not sure what shape that actually is. But Vermithrax has a very simple shape. It's ridge of spines down the center, horns, fins, snarly little mouth. It's perfect. It's not trying to do too much, yet it's the small details in her face. Like she's a very standard dragon in build, very like the wyvern, very simple.
Mm,
But but it's the small tweaks. It would have been easy just to give her a dinosaur face, but they didn't. They gave her very like the very particular way that the ridge in the center of the head moves, the way the bone from the brow horn goes over from the back of the horns over the eyes, the way that the snout tapers off to that exact way, the way the mouth arcs in the back for the muscle. Very small details that make her instantly recognizable. And that's that good stuff.
yeah. It's like the atrophied back legs as well, because like all her weight she much more carries on the wing, because the wing also doubles as the arm, and like the face is like so stylized, but without going too
Yes,
far, because they didn't want her
exactly.
to look, too friendly or anything. And apparently with the babies, they said like, "Oh, make them look as ugly as heck, so people don't hate Galen for killing them." And then people did anyway, because he
Exactly.
still just murders baby animals. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of hard to
yeah.
justify, but yeah, see, that's another thing I like with when you're not bound up in trying to make the dragon cute, you can make such a cool design. I wish almost that the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Ice and Fire Dragons would lean into that slight stylization a little bit more. Uh, like Caraxes, for example, he's the most recognizable of their dragons. But when I was watching this, I was watching with some family and some friends, and I could tell the dragons apart. Most people can, but they're like, these dragons, they look very similar. I mean, I get they're all
Wow.
related, but like
What will they say about Game of
sometimes,
Thrones?
yeah, yeah, I know, right? But it's like you can't really. I mean, they at first glance they sort of read the same, and unless it's Caraxes because he's so different, he's the most stylized of them. But Vermithrax is a stylized head, but on a realistic texture, and you could believe it as a real creature because the body's very very conservative in its design. So the head being more stylized, I could digest that. It's like I like it. It's like how I like to design monsters.
That sort of personality that's baked into them.
Exactly. And you could read it at a second glance. Like it's the all the benefits of animation that lend you like shape language and character design, but in the nice like 4K textures of like a prop puppet. So good.
Yeah, I think like oh, I just realized something as well. Like looking at the image you added, but that cheek horn she has, I think they took that directly for Sunfire as well.
Oh, you
I've
know what?
only
I
just
wouldn't doubt
noticed that
that.
now, but it was like the other day when the Sunfire like image of him came out, and I pointed out that cheek horn, and yeah, I've only just twigged on that now actually.
I would actually not doubt that for a second.
As yeah,
like pay
she is.
homage.
Yeah, she's effectively like she is still the mother of all dragons. Like the
Yeah, I
ripples
would
she makes in fiction will effectively never end so long as there are dragons.
exactly. What a thing to be too, and what a great way to start off the whole like movie dragon thing with such a banger design too.
Mm.
It's like it's not S tier just because she was the first. It's she's the first and arguably, in my opinion, the best. So that's my piece on Vermithrax.
Ah, she is the goat. Now to also technically I guess the mother of dragons. It's just her wing. The image didn't crop too well. But
Yeah.
I'm putting Vhagar in S, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's like I've said it multiple times now, I think, in like the hot tea video I made and the character creature one, but I think Vhagar is like I think Caraxes is probably like the audience favorite, but Vhagar is definitely mine, and I think they do so much with her, and I think all of it is good, like the age, the personality, that sort of leaning away from just making her, just like I think Vhagar is almost like a litmus test for how well you understand creature design, and if you're one of those
Yeah.
people who are like, why doesn't she have more spikes or anything like that, then
Yeah, for real. I
yeah.
agree with you. I Vagar's actually um, fights for my favorite spot with Silverwing. Uh,
Ooh,
but I keep
that's a
coming
big
back to
call.
Yeah, Vagar was my favorite until Silverwing came up and took the crown for a little bit. But I also keep coming back to Vagar because you know she's everything. You know
She
she's
is.
got such a like such an iconic. She's iconic in the same way that Caraxes is. Uh, People talk about him and then they talk about her. I don't see many people talk about the other ones outside of some niche, like less common things.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe Cyrax, just because she's associated with Rhaenyra, and she's
yeah,
like the sort of the barstool audience bait, but for
yeah, she's
connoisseurs, it is Vhagar.
yeah. For it is Vagar. Vagar's got like personality down to a T. I love the sounds she makes. I love the big waddle in the throat. Cells being so insanely heavy, it's just so fun to watch and watching her get in action like calling up from the forest as if she's part of
Yeah,
it.
that
Oh,
intro scene is that's a brain chemistry alterer. Just
it is.
like the way everything in the battlefield just stops, everyone goes quiet. Like the lord of the castle they're besieging is like, "Oh, you need to get inside." It's like, "No, I want to see it." It's like
Yeah, exactly. Like
she's got that much influence, but she's the one of the conqueror's dragons, and she's literally the most powerful living thing on earth. Like
yes,
the
and
vibes are just
it's just
unmatched.
like if even if you're going to get stepped on by her, you almost can't help but stay locked in and watch it. Like watching a tidal wave approach. You
Mm,
know, it's insane. And the sanded down design works so well for her.
yeah,
I
like
see people like talk crap about it, like some like on whatever social media is like, yeah, that doesn't even look like a dragon. I'm thinking I like it. I like the hump she has on her neck. I
like
like
she's
the
almost
saggy.
200. Like the way she's just bits have fallen off. She's old. She's sagging, but you
Yeah,
still
like
get that feel of weight and power from her.
yeah, exactly. Like she's not like geriatric in the sense that she's failing, but she's also old. What they describe in the developers' notes that she has a whole ecosystem on her
Yeah.
skin. Uh, it's insane. If there was a slice of life for House of the Dragon, I would have wanted to see a journal on all the endemic life in the form of ticks and other small beetles that might
Mites
have
and
developed.
worms, yeah, that live on
Yeah, that
Vhagar.
might have just named species of mites and worms from Vagar's skin over the 200 years she's been alive. And it's just so amazing, so cool. Such a grody. You know she stinks, but it's so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
like Aemond, like he probably has to take a shower every time he gets off her.
so true. You know that they do mention dragons having a smell in that first episode,
Yeah, well,
the Cyrax.
oh, is it what's the Rhaenyra's mum's name? Oh, it's Emma,
I
where
don't
she's
know.
like, yeah, if you
Yeah,
get in the bath, you stink of dragon.
exactly. And I can only imagine what Vagar smells like old dog, but worse.
Probably looks
Um,
like a rotting corpse, probably. There's just
Probably,
so much things that have got stuck on her and then died themselves.
not even that, but cement. You know how like a big dog breathes and stinks up the room.
Yeah.
I can
Fairly young
imagine
dogs
those.
can do that as well.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Like
But
my dog's
just from
breaths
her,
always stank horrible.
I got one like that too. Uh, but yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yours
I
are
imagine just
smaller. You have rat terriers.
I do. I have little, small, tiny, tiny dogs with bad breath.
It's like
But
my
you know,
childhood memory of when we'd take them for the long Sunday walk, and then in the back of the car they'd be like blasting you in the face with their breath, and it was horrible.
it's the torture. It's the cost of going out for a nice walk.
It was. It
Uh,
really was.
but Vagar is just she's great because even though she does, like I mentioned before, she does kind of have a one trick pony thing with the killing. Uh, she pops out of nowhere. I like the ambush. Don't get me wrong. I like the because that's the only way she's feasibly ever going to get the jump on somebody. Uh, and I like the idea of her, something so massive shooting up out of nowhere. But like you'd think that they would better prepare for it.
Yeah, like that's
Uh,
very much a show thing. Because like in season one, when she kills Luke on Arax, I think that was fantastic. Like the way she
oh
lunges out
yeah,
like a great white after a fur seal, which is phenomenal. But with
yeah.
Maelys, it got stupid. Because
Like
like
how
I
did?
don't know if you watched the Unity 5 Games video, where he made sort of Book's Rest, as it were, like a much more
Uh,
book accurate version of that battle. But it's like in the battle, Sunfire and Melis fight, and then Vagar just hits both of them like a train, and they all
yeah.
spin to the ground, and she rips Melis apart as she goes, but Sunfire also gets a bit mangled in the process.
See,
And
that sounds cool.
yeah, no, and so like well, I think when we get to Melis, I'll vent about Rook's Rest, but yeah, like
Uh,
one of the problems I think quite a lot of people had was like Vagar's just repeat ambushing. And I think it
yeah.
is quite stupid because like one point I think they really missed was Rook's Rest should have been the opportunity to say like this is a dragon that like no one can take single-handedly and live, but instead
Yeah.
they wanted to glaze Rhaenys and Meleys. So like they have that moment where they meet in midair, and obviously they don't do any real damage to Vagar, but you can definitely say Meleys wins that tryst, and I think that's stupid. Like Vagar is something that you should not be able to just walk off like
Oh, I
that.
agree.
And if you don't
I agree.
sell her as that strong, then so many other things in the story don't work. Like like the whole reason they do the dragon seeds is because Vagar is that much of a threat. Like the whole reason they can't attack initially is because Vagar is too much of a threat. And if you haven't communicated that to your audience, if she's just something that any dragon can take down, then like you've failed in that sort of very important story point.
Yeah. It was almost felt like the way that Melis was attacking. If Vagar didn't get the jump, Melis would have won.
Yeah, like and
And
that's asinine.
yeah, even especially when they were discussing taking both Melis and Caraxes against Vagar, that would have just been a massacre if it went the way of the show. And
Mm.
yeah, and then you go, well, if Melis, the big, large-ish dragon, could do that much damage, why don't you just take Cyrax? Probably could
Yeah,
do it. They
exactly.
say like any of them. You get Silverwing, she'll do it. Any of them, even Vermithor, take his ass out there. I know what happens there, but still, um, like it just doesn't feel that all this hype, and then in action doesn't necessarily live up to that hype. Does I mean she lives, and I like that scene where after killing Melis, dropping Melis, and like flying off.
Mm.
That was a cool scene because you almost just see the aftermath of the drop and then just the flapping away of massive Vagar, which was awesome. But like I want to see that battle be almost like pathetically one sided.
Mm. Just to communicate how busted Vagar is.
Yeah, or like maybe if Melis tried to attack with the claws or something, the claws just don't do anything.
I think they
It just
sort of
doesn't.
achieved that. Like, when like Sunfire and Melis have their first tryst and she claws open his stomach, and then later when they lock talons and spin, you do get that shot where Melis claws Vhagar. And I think it's sort of like a look what this move did to Sunfire versus look what it did to Vhagar. It sort
True,
of
true.
works, but I think they still underplay that by having Melis win that tryst.
That is true. Yeah. Especially cool when speaking of, uh, I guess we could talk about it with Sunfire. Actually, I'll get there. But the blood that burns when he drops into the
Yeah, I
air
love
and it
that.
burns the soldiers. Oh, so cool!
It's like
Such
it
a cool
said in the
detail.
books that yeah, dragon blood temperature is like boiling, so that's just a really nice detail that I'm very pleased they included.
Yeah, absolute awesome. And just Vagar, just everything is so cool. Being so sluggish on land, kind of like what we mentioned with the same nature as what we said with Toothless, what he should have been. But Vagar is so slow and ungainly on land, but is almost like graceful, like a whale in the sky.
I
And
love again that thought where she enters Rug's Rest, like how long it takes her to gain the altitude and
yeah,
how much build up they have for that is awesome.
yeah, I agree. And the Helena should have collected bucks off of
Oh yeah, the
Dreamfire.
super chat,
Amen.
yeah. No, absolutely true. That's
Exactly.
in
Amen.
character with Helena.
That would have been very fun. Yeah,
And
I
thank you
think.
again for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you. We're in unanimous hype for Vagar.
One thing as well, like I listened to some of the podcasts that they released sort of alongside the various seasons, and it was talking about the sound design for Vagar, and it's something they said that I thought
Uh,
was so good that where they say like they make a ton of different sounds for Vagar, but only like a third of them were vocalizations. The rest were just like her body, like her breathing, her
nice.
gut, her joints and stuff. And that I thought like that communicated size when I really thought about it and then rewatched the scenes, how well that communicates the size. Like it made me think of a few
Huh.
other things as well, like Yoragan in Monster Hunter, like especially in his first appearance in Try, like the way his whole body just creaks and groans as he moves, and also the like Pleurodon in Walking with Dinosaurs, the way it has that almost like the gulping sound it makes, where it sounds like it's the gut making the noise rather than the vocal cords, because it probably didn't have any, but
Yeah,
still. I know that's so true
that
because
is
like the
such a
bigger an animal gets, the more sounds come from the body rather than the voice.
that's a fantastic idea. I had not seen that podcast. That is so cool. I'm gonna have to look that up. Um, I immediately think of when you put your ear against your dog's stomach and you hear all the sounds,
I guess with yours, you
but
can like
blown
just
up
hold them
to
up like a telephone.
yeah, like if you blew that up by a million times, yeah, you're gonna hear that like it's on a big speaker. Huh, that's so cool. I'm gonna keep that in mind for like any sound design things I do going forward. That's fun. I
Yeah,
like that a
no,
lot.
they cooked with Vega.
Yeah, they
Right,
cooked. They left no crumbs.
on to the Fell Beast. And so I
The
think
good.
maybe B, because he's technically not a dragon. But
Yeah.
you know, there's that quote from Terry Pratchett about Tolkien, where he says like, shit, what's that mountain in Japan? The really famous one,
Fuji.
Fuji, yeah. Where like if you're doing art in Japan, like how everyone includes it and what you do with Mount Fuji is like what you do with Tolkien and his inspiration in fantasy, where you either unapologetically lean into it, you exclude it and thus make a statement in and of itself, or you're standing on top of Mount Fuji. And I feel like
Hmm.
dragons are almost like the same in fantasy, in that like it's that same thing. You either make a statement by not having them, or you lean into having them. And I think the Fell Beasts are sort of the statement of not having them, in that as Tolkien's works progress, the world gets less magical. And by the point of Lord of the Rings, like Sauron he can't create his own dragons. He can only make the sort of the discount pterosaurs. And in
Oh,
that
yeah, I
role,
like that.
the Fell Beasts are still quite cool.
Yeah, that's a very well put there. Because if I'm remembering correctly, the first dragons in Middle Earth were engineered in the same way that the Fell Beasts were, uh,
Yeah, I think
from
so.
stock and turned into like Glaurung and then later into the
In
flying
Caladan,
dragons.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like they can't do it anymore. Seemingly, like the magic's going away. So they, like you said, the discount version of a dragon can't breathe fire or nothing. But it, by all intents and purposes, if I was a villager and I saw a fell beast, I'd be
Still wouldn't
like,
be happy, yeah.
dragon, holy crap! But they even, I would say, especially their role in the story, is not very dragon.
No, they
Um,
are like in the books. They're pretty shit. Like Legolas kills one with a single arrow. Mind you, Smaug also gets killed by a single arrow. But oh
that's
yeah,
true.
like they are just effectively just super fast horses for their intents and purposes. Like they're
Yeah,
just
and
really good to transport.
that's when you start to get into the definition of what you're going to call a dragon. Like these guys, they are just an extension of the ring wraiths, and not necessarily have the same presence as the established dragons in the setting, which is what makes them different. Uh, but then you go, oh, okay, well, what else? What about other shows that have dragons? Like I think of the How to Train Your Dragon books, where there's like microscopic dragons. I'm like, they're still called dragons, but that's not necessarily in that role. I have horse dragons, and I'm like, it's interesting. You're going to go off that definition. I still think that they don't necessarily count the fell beasts as dragons because there are dragons in the setting.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I think we can dock points for that. But as
yeah,
good as
I
the
think
Felbeasts are, like I think they're fantastically implemented and the design is amazing. But it is a
yeah,
dragon tier list.
it is, and he gets an honorable mention because he's so great that he gets into B, but he's not even like part of the club. Like who do you know
Still
here?
above
Like it's
Cyrax.
exactly above Cyrax, and that tells you something. It's because he's got such a fantastic face design. The Weta
Mm.
Workshop really does not spare any expense. Uh,
And the wings
that
as
face,
well, and how they fly, it looks fantastic.
yeah, the head design especially, and the whole design is so amazing that Skyrim goes on to reference them in their Serpentine Dragon.
How does it?
And yeah, it's a sort of late game dragon, and that Mirak, I believe, rides. And it's this gray, smooth dragon with this snake-like face that looks exactly like that. And there's no way it's not a reference to those guys. And I think it's the coolest thing.
I don't think I ever got that dragon in Skyrim.
I know, right? I learned about it a little after the fact. I definitely recommend looking it up. You'll see it like right away.
Mm.
Like you'll be like the same color and everything. Like it's just a fell beast.
Yeah. Yeah, they look fantastic though. It's like a big scaly vulture, you get the impression.
Yeah, with the tight snake scales too. It's just
Mm. They are
good
immaculate.
stuff. Like doesn't have the armor of Smog, but especially looking at it on the chart here, looking from Smog to the fell beast, like that's a pretty huge
Yeah.
like jump. Like if you put these two, like looking at the fell beast alone in the movie, I could see where you go, yeah, that's basically a dragon. But then when you look at a real dragon from that universe, you go, okay, yeah, that's a moth.
Yeah, and like in fantasy, you also need a certain level of big, scaly flying thing to communicate the, certain aspects of fantasy. But when you stack them
Yeah,
up with Smaug, yeah, they
and
are moths,
even
as you say.
settings. Exactly, and even settings like I mentioned before, How to Train Your Dragon books have those microscopic dragons. They're not the only ones. They're balanced out by having giant dragons, and I think that's the way to do it. Or if you're going to have a huge variety, at least one of them needs to be huge and imposing to sort of sell that. Yeah, there's dragons here. All
Yeah.
right, yeah, I
All
think
right.
that's my piece for Fell Beast.
Agreed. Well said. All right.
Yeah,
Now we're on to Vermithor.
Vermithor. I
He's a quite
wish he
cool
got.
dragon, but he
He
doesn't do as
is.
much as you'd like at this point.
That's so true. What do you think? I almost want to be. Um, when I watched his scene,
A or
I liked
B?
uh A for a House of the Dragon
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it was.
he's got a lot of personality for one of these dragons. His intro was a banger. Rainier calming him down was very cool, and him losing his temper right after was really cool.
Mm.
Um, I liked when he cooked the guy and ate him.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of the times, I mean, Sea Smoke also kind of threw a fit when attempted to be claimed, but he did it in such a way that it like leaves a mark on you and makes Silverwing's entrance stronger from that contrast. So he's a very good dragon in partnership with Silverwing, which is funny because they are partnered dragons. But he had such a, you almost want to call him, in my mind, I almost wanted to say discount Smog. The way he like,
Oh, no, I
right?
can see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, his face design is similar. And the way he kind of slithered his head around the arena, so to speak, eating the dragon seeds, it felt kind of like Smog going after Bilbo. And I wonder if that was intentional.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I know what you mean. It was like, because with Smaug, because he was so big, it was just essentially all focused on his head, unless they panned out for a wide shot to show how big he was. But with
yeah,
Vermithor, like I watched the making of and such, and they just put hit like they made a bespoke head, and then they put that on Vagar's body, because and they still haven't made like a proper body for him yet, which is why so
really.
much of his scenes are in darkness. It's almost like how they filmed Colonel Kurtz. But yeah, so and that's why his scenes are shot the way they are. And the one time you see him in daylight in the sort of the dragons roaring together scene, he's sort of out of focus and hidden behind Rhaenyra. Um, but at the
Dare
same
I say
time,
he?
no, no, go ahead.
Mhm. I was gonna say, dare I say he gets docked for that,
Oh,
or is he carried? Because that's he's running on Vagar's like thunder
he
with the body.
is. And that A tier is looking a bit crowded, isn't it?
I think we need to dock that boy down
Yeah. Until he gets his
until
own body, yeah.
yeah, until he gets his own dang body with his own design that we could look at in like a year with Tessarion and have a conversation about
Oh,
that.
2 years.
But that 2 years, oh. But I think yeah, he's a good B. We don't see much of him. I like his head, but he just I don't know. He's feeling like a Smog reference to me. He's feeling like I like that he's eating people.
Yeah.
Big personality for a big dragon. I
Yeah,
like that
like
he's more active than Vagar.
it almost reminds me a little
Uh,
bit of War of the Worlds. Like, you know, the way the tentacles come down and scoop people up
yes,
into the tripods? The way his
yes.
head, like, looms in out of the darkness, grabs someone, and then moves back up in. And the way he just lunges out of nowhere when he does that, it almost reminded me a little bit of that. And then, of
I
course, you
like
know, it
that.
was very Jurassic Park as well.
Oh my god, that is true. That's what I was looking for too. That's actually what someone said. I was watching it with my girlfriend, and when it premiered, and she goes, "You know, this is very Jurassic Park." I'm like, "No kidding, of course, very Jurassic Park with the dark lighting and the." Oh yeah, you were cooking there, um, which is cool. You know, uh, it's the Jurassic Park thing is cool, but I still think he sits at B until I see his own bespoke design.
Yeah, like, and when you think about it, he's only had, like, one really cool scene, which was the Dragon Seed scene.
Yeah,
And I think
he
he
needs
needs
more.
more if he's going to go up from B. But
He's
like,
got potential.
yeah, no, he definitely does. And I think, well, no, he's got shit to do. He's got a lot of
Yeah,
shit that's going to be really cool.
he he I like the idea of him being a more active, more aggressive version of Vagar who almost feels passive but powerful.
Mm,
He's like he's like a version of that that's more out to get you in particular rather than almost overlooking you and stepping on you by accident like Vagar would.
yeah, no.
Uh, and that's cool. I want to
Yeah,
see
the
that
Dragon
guy. I
Seed
want
scene is like personal.
exactly like if he was that like those little humans were not providing any nutrients to him. That was yeah, that was personal. Uh, I cannot wait to see more of him, but you know, we just need to see more of him.
Yeah, like I think in terms of adaptation, having all the Dragon Seeds together, some people didn't like that. Because in the books, it's much more they came one by one. But I think having them all together made it a
I
way
agree.
better scene. So impactful, so chaotic, like the way he's just
Yeah,
eating them all. I thought it was
it's
fantastic.
yeah,
I think if it was
yeah, and
one
I
by
like
one as well, like surely
yeah,
people would have twigged. Like, oh,
I
Brian
agree
hasn't come back from Dragonstone yet.
exactly. I think the chaos of everyone running, and it made Hugh's taming of
Oh
him
yeah, it
more
fed into
impactful.
Silverwing really well as well.
Yeah, yeah, Hugh. Oh yeah, that's true. But Hugh saved that woman and stood up to Vermithor, which really made that impactful. And then, of course, Silverwings was a solitary tame, which is nice.
Mm.
All right, let's see. I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah, we do have a super chat saying if Vermi is B, Fatty should be in A. But I think everything we said about Fatalis is why he would still be in B. Like, I don't think Vermithor's placement would really affect Fatalis.
Yeah, I think
Each tier ranking is its own isolation.
yes, I would agree.
So if we put the Mountain
Uh,
Dragon in B, I think Prehistoric should be A.
yeah, yeah, I like it. It's just a I like prehistoric in A because prehistoric is just a really cool like idea.
Mm.
I've never I haven't really seen it explored further except for one of the Dragonology sequels. The idea of a in a natural evolved dragon. Usually, you just see them in context with humans, because that's kind of the whole point of a dragon is to deal with humans. But to have them in the ancient prehistoric times with dinosaurs as a sort of older species of dragon is such a cool idea. It deserves the A spot. And he's strange looking too. He's kind of ugly, and I like it.
Yeah,
Like
like
he's not.
ugly in an animalistic way.
Yeah, he's not like too badass. He fits in with the other. And I love the chase too. Oh, we got
Mm.
another super chat. Their first super chat. Why, thank you, Tigress 115.
Yeah, no, thank you
Uh,
very much.
yeah, let's answer their question real quick. I said, how would you rank Dungeon Meshi's Red Dragon? Um,
I have not seen Dungeon Meshi, so I'll let you field that one.
I my gut reaction says I like it. You know what? Yeah, I like it. Because it's doing something slightly different than what I'm expecting from a Red Dragon from what's effectively a D&D anime. Uh, it's I like how the author goes into detail about the life cycle a little bit. Makes it feel less like a spawned-in video game monster, more like an actual creature. Uh, but the Red Dragon's design doesn't have any wings, and I think that's so good. Usually, that's the red is like the dragon of dragons with the wings and the horns and the fins. This dragon has horns, but they also curl forward like a black dragon, but on a smaller scale. And the no wings kind of calls to mind big stomping vintage dinosaurs and uh, like almost kaiju, and he's so scarlet vermilion red, he almost looks made of plastic. And you're like, yeah, that's a red dragon. Oh, and he clicks metal on his teeth to breathe fire. Just a great detail that honestly, anime dragons suck usually. They look like big mecha. Um, and this one actually looks like an animal. I would put it very high, probably at A, if it was on this list. So yeah, thank you for that little. Yeah, the clicks the tongue. Yeah, Voltaire is very cool, and it's living underground, which explains the no wings. Very cool. Um, but yeah, that's my piece on the Dungeon Meshi Red Dragon. But let's get
Well
to the. What do you
said.
think? Yeah, thank you. What do you think about the prehistoric dragon?
No, I really like the prehistoric dragon. Like everything you said, very naturalized. Like it's still recognizable as a dragon, but it feels very different and it feels very sort of dinosaurian itself. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
like they had such like a low-hanging fruit to have it just come down and like epically kill the T-Rex, but
Yes.
instead like they both effectively fatally wound each other. Like the dragon is not above everything else, it's just part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's, a very, very restrained, nuanced portrayal. And like you say, the chase is also awesome. Yeah, just a very I think yeah, like the prehistoric dragon is definitely my favorite. I think it's just a
They had
very,
a.
very
Mhm.
nice interpretation of them.
They had a really cool montage in the edition that I saw as a kid, where when he's facing off with the T Rex, he's about to breathe fire, and the camera shoots down his throat, down his neck, and into his like gizzard, where it's like sparking gases or something. And I haven't seen it in so long, but then it follows the fire as it comes up through the neck and out the mouth, and that was cool. I was like, oh well, this is a real creature. Hello. It was very cool.
Like a doctor show where they have the like the zoom in to see the body parts and how they're falling apart or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, let's see. Oh, is that who I think is up next? The Hungarian
It
Horntail?
is. I really like the Hungarian Horntail. Almost feel we need to dock it a point because of association with J.K. Rowling.
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
like
Does he just, yeah.
should they like make the statement of just was the dragon is on the list. Um, we do not approve of
Right. Yeah.
anything, yeah, that she's effectively said for like
Yes.
the last 10 years.
We do not like the mold brain infested
No,
Rowling.
we don't
Um,
like tough Queen
but
Rowling.
no, we don't. But we do like the dragon, kind of. Um, it it was one of the first ones that I saw that had the two saliva gland breath, fire breath. Um, and I thought that was pretty cool as a kid. Granted, as a kid, when I watched this, I also thought it looked like a deadly natter.
My first thought
And
was
yeah,
that, you know, the Carnotaurus from Disney's Dinosaur? I thought it looked
yes,
like a winged fire-breathing version of that. And
yes,
I think it is pretty cool.
that's there's something to be said that both of us thought of something else when we saw it.
Yeah.
I
But
think
not in a bad
that's
way.
not in a bad way. It's we thought back of things that we liked. Um, I like its mane of spikes, almost like Melis, which is pretty
Mm.
cool. Uh, it also, when I looked at it more, actually, funny enough, just the other day, I was looking at a render of it of the model, and it's very bird of prey with the big eyes and the hooked mouth
It
and the
is. It's like a
dinosaur teeth.
scaly eagle.
Yeah, and I think I mean, if you look at the history of flying vertebrates, that's kind of how they go. They get beaks, they get bird like, convergent bird like pterosaurs even have feathers now, which is pretty sick. And it's like he feels like a flying predator. It's really cool. The chase is really cool. I love how
Mm.
he's like he makes having smallish wings actually kind of believable when he moves,
And the
like when
way it
he's
kind of
climbing around.
scrabbles around on the tower as well.
Yes, just so cool. Uh, the fire and everything, and the chain around his neck. A very very cool dragon to see as a kid who loves dragons. Oh wait,
Yeah,
we got a super chat for
we
$5.
do.
Wow,
We do,
thank
yeah,
you.
no, thank you, Overlord Zoo.
Yeah, and it says thoughts on Warhammer Dragon, especially the Cathayon dragons. Interesting to see these Chinese dragons that could be transformed. Funny enough, I don't know Warhammer,
I
uh,
also don't.
so I can't necessarily speak on that. Um, let me look that up
I'm
so
also going
that
to
I
put
don't
next to
leave you
Google on
hanging.
my end.
Yeah, hold on. That because I don't want you to have wasted your
Yeah,
$4.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I can't say sorry, bro, and then move. Oh, what is this? Oh, he's cool. I'm glad I looked him up. Let's see, Kethion Dragon Warhammer.
I mean, it's more of like, yeah, much more of an Eastern dragon, like no wings, but he's still flying.
If this is because there's a few different renditions of it that are coming up on my screen, but I like him a lot. He almost looks like a Western dragon in face,
Yeah, he's got the
with the big
whiskers
horns.
still, but he is
He has
very,
yeah,
yeah, no, I know what you mean.
like his body proportions too. He has like the big eagle like front legs and the uh, very standard dragon back legs. In the position, like the proportions where if he had a big set of wings on his back, he wouldn't be too out of place, lined up with like the red dragon from D&D. But the fact that he doesn't have any wings at all is a really cool like way to handle that kind of design. It would have been too easy to give him wings, and I think it's gutsy that they didn't.
It's almost like the
Yeah, he's
inverse
still
of Caraxes in a way, and that Caraxes is
yes, he
also the
is.
mix of East and West, but with the West leaning, whereas he's the mix of East and West with the East leaning.
Yes, and he's still like stocky. You would think the east-leaning dragons would be very slim, almost like Caraxes is. But this Warhammer dragon, is very heavily built. Especially that club tail. He looks like he's ready to like demolish stuff, and obviously he is in these renders. But that is such a cool design. I'm glad I looked that up.
Yeah, no, thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that to our attention.
yeah, that was a dragon that went under my radar, which I can't say many do.
I'll say quite a
Let's
few do
see.
for me, actually. There's just a lot of media I don't consume. Often more like niche stuff. Although Warhammer isn't really niche.
That's true. I just haven't really entered that game yet. Uh, let's see. Who's next? Oh, did you want to say something about the Harry Potter dragon or?
I think I'm finished with the Horntail. Fantastic
Yeah, yeah,
dragon,
me too.
but will dock and point for association with Turf
Exactly.
Queen.
It's so true.
It would have been an A otherwise, because I don't think it's quite good
Yeah,
enough to warrant S, but
yeah, I
it's still
agree.
really quite cool.
He's a great dragon. He's just yeah, he's got some associations he needs to clean
B.
up. So he just made a Kickstarter back the book. Oh, thank you, P tier Griffin. P tier. The fact that that got me, like I read that out and I didn't register that it was Peter Griffin. That is
Come on,
very funny.
jeez, Lois.
Yeah, oh, geez. But
This
yeah,
reminds me
thank
of the
you.
time this cutaway happened.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for backing the book. I appreciate that. That means a lot. And if any of you don't know, I do have that Kickstarter. There's 2 days left of it to back my survival guide to dragons, Dragon Slayer Codex. If you're interested, very cool dragons in there that I write excessively about. If you're into that kind of thing, and I assume if you're watching this, you might be. So, little plug there. But yeah, again,
Yeah, it would
thank
be
you,
surprising if
Peter
someone
Griffin.
wasn't. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you for the super chat.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Who's
Now
next?
Rain of
The
Fire. And I want to put them in A because I think they're phenomenal, but at the same time,
uh
like their creators verbatim said they were just redoing Vermithrax, but making her bigger, bulkier, more predatory, more Hollywood. And I think they are still absolutely fantastic dragons, but the fact they're
mhm,
like so like honestly derived from another dragon would only mean that that's more candidate for that one to be S. And that's still
I
good, but I
agree.
think they wouldn't be S themselves.
I agree. I think I appreciate their honesty. I think that's what grants him an A, as well as having a good design. I like the homage to Vermithrax, the love of Vermithrax. But yeah, he is derivative of that, so of course he's going to be beneath it. Um, he went on directly to influence the Century Age of Ashes dragon, which has pretty much the same face. Uh, so there's something to be said there. He's good enough for that. He has cool wings too.
Yeah, it's like again reading the design notes and everything. They said that like how they always wanted the body to sort of hang off the wings. Like one when
Yeah.
he's sort of when he's hovering, the way the tail and legs hang down, and then when he flies, the way the body sort of droops, almost like a hornet, because of how threatening they thought it make
Ah,
him look, like how big and heavy and everything too, and how it really gave a
man,
sense
that's
of
cool.
weight.
That is cool. I
And I
didn't
think
think of that with the hornet. That's clever.
the bull especially is just a really cool dragon. Like when he burns the castle, when he burns the convoy, like that one scene where they're trying to sneak into London and then he swoops in and you see how big he is compared with the females.
Yeah.
Like he's just a very cool dragon.
Yeah, the wasp thing, the hornet thing. I'm gonna think about that. That's a really cool pull, like inspiration pull. Oh, we got another super chat here.
Dude, we're raking
Um,
it in tonight.
that means we're doing something right, man. Uh,
It does.
it says Damsel Dragon is cool. OST is nice. What is Damsel
Oh,
Dragon?
so I don't know if you've seen it, but it was the thing with the girl from Stranger Things where she was like the princess. And her dad, who
Oh,
is Ray
oh,
Winston, he sells her to this evil kingdom where they drop her off as bait for the dragon, and
I did
it
see that dragon.
it turns out that like obviously that's a deal with the dragon to keep it at bay or something because they killed its own. Like I think they smashed its own eggs or chicks or something. And like if it was
Okay,
released in like 2004, I think it really would have been what they
it would
wanted
have.
it to
Yeah,
be. But
yeah,
instead, it was released I think last year, and
yeah,
in the age of everyone trying to do their own spin on fantasy and things, it just felt a bit redundant.
yeah. I
But
agree.
the dragon was still really cool. Like it almost reminded me a little bit of Shara Ishvalda from Iceborne, Monster Hunter's
Oh yeah,
Iceborne.
yeah, definitely.
And you could tell it was a Tetopolis monster as well, because it had like that very strong, like literally the Chad chin, and that very big jawline. And the
That
voice
is
acting
true.
for it was really good as well. So
The
overall, I
voice
did
acting
think
was
it was a
good.
very solid dragon. The
I think
film
it
was a
looked good
bit
in flight too.
iffy, but the dragon was fun.
The dragon. You know what? I think when you said that it would have been great in the early 2000s, like 2005, I agree. I think if it released then, it would have been the next Dragonheart.
It would
But
have. It would have kicked off. Yeah.
yeah, but granted, it did not. It's cool. I like the lion mane, like Voltaire said. I like that when she goes to breathe fire, it all lights up. That's one of my favorite tropes, is when the throat lights up.
And that whip
Um,
tail as well was quite nice.
yeah, very nice shapes where it goes from this huge neck to this very thin tail and thin body. It's like gives both strength and agility at once. Very cool dragon. And the frog eyes too. Can't forget that.
Mm.
That was
Yeah,
a
the buggy
nice,
eyes.
very nice, like horizontal pupil goat looking bold choice that not many would have done. I could respect that. All right, let's see. Who's up next?
Alrighty. What is Maylease? Where are we
Oh,
putting Maylease?
I love Maylease because my car looks like Maylease.
Does it?
Um, it's like this really dark red Volks Passat. I hype it up a little too much, but it's a very common car. It's like a 2013. It's nothing special at all. But I call it like Maylease because it's red and it's low hung like that. But it funny that you put it in B next to the horntail because in that pose too, they look
They
really
do.
similar,
They really do.
and they're both good designs. I like Maylease's skull, and I like
The sort of
that.
wolfy skull.
Yeah, Wolfie skull, the big spikes on the neck with the huge like uh, horned toad scales, really bold
Mm.
for a House of the dragon, which are usually kind of smooth or have the fins. Very nice texture change, but that texture is only on the neck and nowhere else. I
I
would have
think as
liked it
well,
on the
like,
tail.
I think there's a really noticeable difference between Maylease's season one textures and season two. Like,
Yeah,
they really kept her in the shadows for season one, and I think it's because she was unfinished. Whereas
I
season
agree.
two, she looks a lot better, I think.
Something else is she's got all this like armor, yet is also the fastest. And I don't know if I necessarily buy that.
Yeah, like,
Um,
they say she's the fastest dragon, but isn't like, yeah,
like
there's nothing really in her design that feels like it leans into that.
I would have told you if I went in blind and you showed me the dragons, I would have said that Cyrax was the fastest dragon because of that compact body and the large wings and all that. But Maylease, I would put down as the pit fighter dragon with the armored neck and being great at going up against other
It
dragons.
is
Like
almost
she
like
doesn't.
a wolf collar that livestock
Yes,
guardian dogs have, yeah.
yes, it's like a wolf collar. And if
Not
you
that
look
it
at the
does her any
rest of
good.
her, yeah, right. Which pissed me off. But the rest of her is very unadorned. Like the tail has no extra fins, and to me that reads as there's very little for another dragon to grab onto and rip, uh, which would help in a fight. Now, I got mad when Vagar. I mean, it's a testament to Vagar for being able to bite through that armor and just not be hurt. But it's funny that the one time she gets hit, she's hit and killed on the big protected neck,
Yeah.
which you almost got to wonder if that was an intentional design to bring so much attention to her neck, only for her to ultimately die at that spot.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe something like that. Uh, I know the designers are very thorough in how they want to portray their dragons. So maybe I like the armor though. I like the fact that the spikes can kind of flare up and lay back down like Smogs can. Um, or even some of the like Drogon and his siblings kind of do that too. I like that trope in general. A Hungarian horntail does that as well, I think, with the flaring and resting spines like an adder. It's like a thing that happens.
Yeah, no, it
It's
feels yeah, it just makes the animal feel very alive.
yeah, yeah. It's
Everything's
a good way.
moving and shuffling with it, and
Yeah, a good way for it to emote without having like a very clear face, like eyes that are readable. Smog does it too. Um, damn, that's like all over the place now that I'm thinking about it.
yeah, the sort of the ripple spines in a way.
Yeah, yeah, like a bird's feathers, like a cockatoo. Um, Draco doesn't do it. I'm surprised, but that might have just been a
It might
tech
have been a bit too
limitation.
advanced for him at the time, yeah.
Yeah, he works well with that. He's a very sturdy guy. Um, all right, let's go to my favorite, Silverwing.
Hang on, before we do, I've got a lot of reading.
Oh
I'm gonna
yeah,
put. Oh wait, no, wait, but it's not really a spoiler anymore. But
yeah,
so
yeah,
sort of like we said it a bit with Rook's Rest, but like with Vagar, but yeah, like I think Rook's Rest in hindsight was actually kind of stupid as a battle. I think there's so
yeah,
much wrong with it. Because initially when I watched it, I was quite taken with it. I thought, oh wow, really
yeah.
cool.
Of
We
course,
actually see
because it's
dragons
awesome.
fighting and so on and so forth. But then the writing, I think, is a bit astronomically stupid, in fact. Like, when Aemon first comes out and he burns his brother and Meleys
Yeah,
gets away fine. And then he just like he seems fine with that. Like literally he was just saying to the Madame, like, Damon wants to kill me, they send assassins for me. So he knows he's the most wanted man in Westeros for like Team Black.
yeah,
And he just
yeah,
watches Meleys fly away. And their whole plan that he and Kristen hatched was that Rook's Dress was to kill like a black dragon or as many black dragons as they can. And then he just watches that opportunity leave because he's apparently just pleased with killing his brother when that's
it's
his plan. Like it's astronomically stupid.
insane.
And yeah, and I think that's just not especially good writing. And again, the
You
whole
know,
like
that's
actually we should have said it like I should talk a bit more about him and Vagar, but initially I did like him sort of burning his brother, burning Aegon because I thought that might lead to something interesting. But then when it became really clear that that's literally just a setup so Alicent can abandon her kids with less guilt, because Aemond is now a monster, like
yeah,
it just didn't go anywhere. And like, okay, like so Aemond has disabled his brother, but is he gonna kill him? Like everyone says, "Oh, we need to get you out of the capital because he'll kill you," but
yeah,
he's got so much opportunity and he doesn't.
yeah.
Um,
Literally, like, uh, it's funny that you say that. Like, you were taken with it at first, and then until you kind of looked at it, because it's the same thing. You see the dragons fighting, you see the spectacle, and then when the sweat dries, uh, you,
oh my
you look
God, this
back
was
at it for
stupid.
yeah, yeah. It's like you almost feel dumb for having been so taken with the initial uh the pow of it, and then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe that wasn't so great.
And again, the way they glaze Meleys so hard, and like they have that again, the scene where they both connect and Meleys wins. Like, I almost think if they swap that around, like, say, like after the initial burning, if like Aemon's trying to find Meleys, but she goes up into the clouds and then she dive bombs him, and that's where the spin comes from. There's one thing like a lot of people were unhappy with is that Rhaenys' initial decision to turn and fight Vhagar was really unclear why she did that. And I think
Yeah,
if like she initially went for an ambush and you didn't see her beforehand, and from that ambush she had some success, and then she has the turn back scene, they fly into each other, and that's instead when Vhagar just rips Meleys to pieces. That
yeah,
communicates, you can't take Vhagar head on, she's way too strong. But it also, I think, if like Meleys and Rhaenys have already had some success, then I think that sells why they might go back, because that's like a criticism a
yeah,
lot of people had.
yeah. That would have. We need to get you in the writer room, man.
I don't know, we need
Like
to turf
that.
out Ryan Condal.
That would have been that would have been much better. And that also goes in what you were saying, where Vagar is needs more ways of killing dragons other than like ambushing them with her mouth. She could instead crush Meleys, like you said. She could crush her and have that weight do some real damage. Like just for being such a huge dragon, just sitting on Meleys after falling out of the sky would be intense. And then like mauling the rest, like some uh, war dog driven into a frenzy would have been awesome.
Yeah. Oh, what Rooksrest could have been.
We could dream.
But I also really don't like Rhaenys as a character either. Like,
Yeah.
so, like, the thing is, like, they really want you to think, ah, she's the queen who should have been, but she doesn't have like a single instance of statesmanship or governing or a single like
Yes.
especially sound decision. But they always try to portray her as like this world-weary person who's seen it all and knows everything. But her only real act that would make her be your favorite character is literally this insanely violent act of domestic terrorism where she storms the coronation on Meleys and like kills 100 small folk, and she just doesn't have any real feats other than that, but they really want you
And
to
I,
like her.
I wish that in doing that, storming the coronation, instead of just killing innocent bystanders, she should have gone for the kill on the king. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
it's
like I
like
get
it's
it.
something they never should have added because it's just
Yeah.
it's so full of holes.
And it's just such the act of it too of there's a coronation, it's a very holy ceremony, and disrupting that on the back of your dragon is
It's
like an act of
terrorism.
war. It is. It's terrorism. It's an act of war. And after you fly away, you're going to be punished, and you basically have a mark on your head, like you will die from like an assassin or some other thing.
And then like
If yeah,
when they bring her head into King's Landing as well, like they should have, that the writing should have been like, hooray, the thing that killed like 200 people is dead. And instead they almost try to make it like, oh, they're so disrespectful dragging the dragon's head around. It's like, it killed like 100 of you.
yeah, the small folk should have been more like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's like, no matter how good the rest of the series is, and that's doubtful at this point, but I think the storming of the coronation will be such a big stain on just the whole series because it is just asinine.
Yes, like not only that, but even the roar of Melis when she breathes in deep, and you think, oh, she's gonna breathe fire, and then it's this. This is a
Yeah, it's
problem I
very
have
much,
with the.
it's made for the Burlington Bar, isn't it? It's for people to
It's
react
just
to.
yeah, but the roar itself is just this breathy, like no stomach behind it, no push. It's just this screech, and I'm thinking I know that that's what they do in this show. All the dragons screech, but I would have wished that roar had a little more bass to it. There's no substance, and so I felt like, all right, this dragon just screeched at me as if I raided the nest of some like bird, and it was yelling at me to get away from its egg. But like, I wanted a dragon roar there, like to show that rage. But no, I mean, you don't see a dragon roar unless it's absolutely the amazing icon Vagar.
That's
And
why
hers
she's
are
the
short.
goat.
Exactly. Hers are short and sweet, but they're that nice, like deep little bloop, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Also, one final thing
Um,
on Melis and Vhagar,
yeah.
like when Vhagar does kill Melis and she swings her around like a dog with a rat as she's still flying upwards, that was
Yes.
absolute peak.
That was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like, especially, they keep saying how big Melis is, and how, like, big, they keep counting her, and like, oh, we have this many large dragons, we have Caraxes, we have Melis, are fighting dragons, and then just gets handled like a rag doll.
Just yeah, it
uh,
sells power so well.
uh,
Right, let's go to Silverwing, your fave. D. All right, next to
oh
Ghidorah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So, oh wait, here we got another
Oh, do we?
highlighted chat with
Oh
the
yeah,
small
just
folk
yes.
reaction. Should be mixed. Yeah, I agree. They should be mixed. Some should be bored. They just don't give a crap. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's see. Let's see. Silverwing. Oh, I'm trying not to be biased.
She is your
Um,
favorite.
oh, I know. Well,
I
I just
think
got an ad on your live stream. I'm trying to watch from my
di-
computer while we're talking.
didn't you
Um,
have like uBlock Origin or something?
I did, but then it wouldn't play videos.
You got to clear your
Oh,
cache.
gee. How now? Put her. I mean, you know what? Though I can't disagree with you.
So yeah,
Um,
like she hasn't done much. She's very
yeah,
cool.
that's
The design's nice. Like we were saying the other day, the way you can like trace the lineage back to her from Cyrax and Sunfire is really nice.
that is nice. I love this dragon, but I will agree on a B. She hasn't done much. Her entry was fantastic. I
Mm.
loved. I what
The way she
really sold
comes
me
out the
on her.
stone, yeah.
Yes, she's up pressed against the wall in the grayscales. You almost don't see her at first until you do, and that really got me. I was thinking not got me, like scared me, but that sold me. And then I was thinking, oh, that's such a cool way for such a huge dragon to sort of meld into the stones of the background, especially a brooding dragon that was watching her eggs. Um, Now, I just spoke about the bad voices of the dragons, like how they're too high pitched. But when she nudges or like approaches him, uh, and has that deep gurgle that almost sounds like a chuckle, That was amazing. I
It's
was thinking
almost
that I want
like
to see.
she's rumbling to her young or something. Because I think
Yes.
like what the interpretation a lot of people had was when he stepped in the eggs, she thought he was like a chick at first or something, and that's like her ultrasound that they'd
Wow.
hear through the egg or something.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and it's like a louder sound to pierce through that shell. That's a really great way to see that. I will see it like that from now on. That's just makes sense, especially with the smoke that comes out. I bet you there's a pheromone involved.
mm,
She smells it, she hears it, she goes into mom mode, which might have explained why she took so readily to him. Um,
yeah.
but that deep gurgle was amazing. I loved that, and the sort of setup where you think she's going to rip him a new one, and then just doesn't. It's great. I like having a huge dragon like that that looks. And the thing with her too is her design. What I also love about it, of all dragons, you would expect Silverwing to be covered in frills and fins, like Drogon. Uh, all silvery and glittery and almost feminine compared to the very brutish and brutish Vermithor. But instead, she's covered in like crocodile scoots, and that is one of my favorite things about her. Is she's covered in armor like Melis, and has like even her tail has like this this armored spade. She has these big mother of pearl wings, but she's also she has the dewlap and the spike. She's not as finny as you think she would
Mm.
be.
Like
And her roar above King's Landing sounds like a bomb alarm, which is very fun.
was like her and Vermithor are the dragons of the old king and the old queen. And I do like that they're almost like in that respect old money dragons. They're not as
Yes,
ostentatious as the new ones. They're still very grand, but they're very restrained. Like
yeah,
they are sort of,
yeah,
the upper crust dragons in a way almost.
exactly. If I was in that world, I would want Silverwing as my dragon. That's my goat right there. Still big and impressive, but not lethargic like Vagar.
And
I
I
would,
think it was you who
yeah,
said like her wings and some of her scales almost look like graphite, the way it's
yeah,
dark, but it has that gleam of like mineralization in it, which is just a very,
exactly.
very nice little touch.
She's got. I was reading some other like director's notes on her because she's my favorite, but
Mm.
the fingers in her wings have that like pompano fish, shiny tarpon almost reflection,
Mm.
uh, but just in the fingers. So it looks like a gilded vein of metal through the mother of pearl wing membrane, and it's just so good, like
Alrighty.
so good. Uh, I'm just a forever fan. No, it's funny because it's also a very generic looking dragon with the horns. I saw some people say that she almost looks like Fatalis,
Yeah, she
and
does a little
I,
bit.
and I'm
Wyvern
not in
Fatalis.
disagreement. Yeah, like if you told me that was like a Fatalis individual that was a little paler with like no front legs, I would believe it. I think that just goes back to both of them being very standard dragons. Um,
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think like there's only like even in Hot D, there's only so much you can do before you
yeah,
start stepping on each other's toes. But yeah, I think they've cooked overall.
I think Silverwing really cooks with the being a huge. Vagar is a very aggressive dragon. Uh, Kind of apathetic, but also aggressive. Vermithor's aggressive, and then the third one you expect to be a war chief as well, but she's very nice, and that elevates her up for me. Like
The
she could
rolled
rip
roast
you.
dragon.
Oh my god, it's exactly the rolls. We love it. Um, let's see, who's next.
Oh, we have a super chat saying,
Ooh,
yeah, thank you again. Kong versus
yeah.
Godzilla gave Big G nice sounds. Yeah, I think Monster vs Godzilla, a bit like what we were saying with Vagar, like after his roar, when it sort of ends with that like that rumble, you get the impression
Hmm.
that's almost like his body decompressing after the exhalation,
Yeah,
rather than being a vocalization. And yeah, I do agree that generally the Monsterverse has quite nice sound design.
they really do. Godzilla and Kong too. Whenever he's doing his ape stuff, like his
Mm.
morning routine, really nice sounds in there. Which is funny because you'd expect him to make more ape sounds, but I like that he just sounds like an old car.
How do
Let's
you
see. Is this
next
silver?
up?
Not
It's
Silverwing.
Sunfire. So I'm gonna put him
Okay.
A because I think
Yeah. Put
Sunfire is really
Sunfire in there.
cool.
I think
Like,
Sunfire.
oh, you
Yeah.
go first.
I've been enchanted by Sunfire lately. At first, I saw discussion that swayed my opinion that he could have been more spectacular, but I think all he needs is like a little bit better lighting. And I know now at this point in the show, he's when you see him next, he's not going to be too pretty. But the glittering scales, excellent. The fins, we were looking at this earlier.
Mm.
The fins on his forearms that aren't his wings. He has these extra frills, and it's on his forewing, and it's just amazing. He has, which sold me so hard, an extra thumb on like his left wing, and it's giving silky chicken like luxury breed that has like a genetic defect slash Targaryen
Inbred,
like
yes.
inbred, yeah. And it's so great, and it's like you would never see it. I didn't even know he had arm frills when watching the show, but because his mutation isn't as apparent as Caraxes, but like it's there, and that's what makes it so cool.
It's almost like
It's like
with some dogs where like they're like he's mutated, but that's how he's meant to look. Like, you know, with some
exactly,
breed standards where you're like, oh God, why is its legs like that? And like, oh no, it's meant to be like
yeah,
that. Like it's the
yeah, or
same
like
thing like with his gold iridescent scales that no predator would have, but they've been bred
yeah,
into him for showmanship.
exactly, or all those fins that don't necessarily need to be there, but it's like it's for showmanship. He's very frilly. He's very finny. He's got the of course he has that beautiful, excellent horns on his
The
head.
cheekbone horns.
The cheekbone horns is such a great design, and it's pretty bold for a hot D dragon. Where it looks like he's wearing a helmet, like some royal helmet, and it's just so.
Yeah,
And he
almost got like a
has
mask as well.
yeah, it's like he's wearing a mask, and especially he looks good in that scene where you first see him. He's being led out, and he's like friendly, and he's bumping on the chest, and he's
So
looking
playing with
like
Egon.
yeah, playing with Aegon, and he looks like almost a sailfin water dragon
Yeah,
from that angle.
yeah, it looks awesome.
He, which
Like the
is
fish
interesting,
aspects they've sprinkled into him.
exactly, very fishy. He has, which is kind of interesting. I noticed in the other dragons, um, Drogon, he has like this bramble of teeth that I do not like. Um, the other dragons, Vermithor, it doesn't look like he has much skull under that massive skin. Like I don't know where his eyes would go. I would have placed them maybe a little higher. But then you get Sunfire, and his skull and the way his flesh sits on his head is just perfect. Like it looks like an animal,
Mm.
and that's like I love that about him. Like he has the cheekbones and the scales that get big around the cheekbones. Like scales big where scales would be big on a reptile, and small where there would be movement. And it's just great. Maybe that's because he's still small. Maybe he'll grow into a big ugly thing as he ages. But well, if
Like
he ages.
on that note, like
But
I love the idea of sort of Sunfire. Like obviously, let's put him into spoiler zone as we talk about the
yeah,
future. But
yeah,
one thing I love, it doesn't really get as developed because he obviously dies from his infections and stuff. But I love the idea of like like just anything in fiction, like a dragon or a beast or whatever, like where it's bred for showmanship as he is, and it starts as a show poodle, but it ends as like a fighting mastiff. With like him, he gets
yes,
starved and battered in his first battle, and then Mutin's men are set on him. But then the next dragon fight he has, it's against an inferior opponent that really just wants to flee, as that's how many interpret how him versus Grey Ghost went. But he kills
hmm
his second opponent, and then with his third battle, like he's properly into it, and he tears Moondancer apart. And I love that idea of like
yes,
he never wanted to be a fighter, but almost like from the trauma of that first experience, like he's robbed of his beauty, and in that he stops being the poodle, he starts being the mastiff.
yeah. Like he becomes a monster
Mm.
from being a royal like pet, and that's pretty cool, especially for what's considered the most beautiful dragon, who would have probably been easily taken down by even humans in his initial pampered existence, but not later on. Later on, he's a weapon,
Mm.
and I mean, he's got crazy feats as he
Yeah,
goes. He
like
eats Rhaenyra.
yeah, he does.
Like,
Good
like he
riddance.
does. He does. I was gonna say he does us that service.
Yeah. What would you have her do?
I think exactly. I think for that alone, he's like probably one of the best dragons in the show, or what will be if they don't write it out. Which, oh my god, I hope they don't.
I'm worried
Um,
because like I don't think they will, but I'm not certain. I generally think they may well bin Sunfire.
like,
I'm not certain either way, but it is a genuine worry.
yeah, like I wonder because especially the end of last season, where it's that focus on Rhaenyra with the dragons roaring. It's like almost feeling like it's setting her up as a protagonist, and uh, if will they have the guts to just have her die this unceremonious death? I mean,
God,
Sunfire
like
eats her in 3 bites. Like that means in that scene, if they do it like that, that's like kind of takes the poise out of being a royal and having your body flail around in this dragon's
it's
mouth.
yeah, it's messy and ungood,
Yeah.
but
It's not yeah, which I kind of would like because I think she's so poised all the time. Well, most of the time. But it would be fun to see a royal kind of, flop around in a dragon's jaw, especially a dragon that's so wounded at that point as
yeah, at that
Sunfire.
point he is just like rotting from the inside out, and he doesn't even finish her because he's so sick.
See, that's what makes it great. He just doesn't even like swallow. It's awesome. And he's cool. And I like to see this purse pet turn into this like street dog.
Mm. One thing I really
It's
hope
like
is
a
like where his skin grows back, the scales aren't gold anymore. Like it's almost
oh,
like he gets
get
robbed.
you in that
Yeah,
room
no, I
now. Get
know.
you in that writer's room. That's a great idea. Like yeah, like they just turn like a fleshy scar color.
Mm.
Or or just even just lacking luster would do it. Um, even if as he got sicker and sicker, he just became a
Yeah, much
dull,
duller and duller. Yeah, the shine goes from his scales.
yeah, like an almost gray dragon at that point. That would be cool. Like
There's
this scarred
so
up,
much they can do with
gnarly.
Sunfire. And
Yeah, and
like he's so
Sunfire kind of.
important for Aegon as well in his character.
Oh, Aegon's whole banner is Sunfire. Like
Yeah,
it's the gold dragon.
and the way they sort of get their strength from each other. Like one thing I'm really like, assuming they keep Sunfire, one thing I think they might do is so obviously Aegon right now they said they're going to Essos, but in the books
Uh,
he goes to Dragonstone. And that's where, you know, he fights and kills Moondancer. One thing I think they might do is like Aegon's really depressed and they're sailing to Essos and then they see Sunfire and they see him heading to
ooh,
Dragonstone and then like there's the dramatic music swell and Aegon goes like, we're not going to Essos anymore, we're following my dragon. And they reunite and yeah, and then things go back to the book from there. But I'm hoping
I
that's what
like
they'll
that.
do.
That's a fun idea. Yeah, because I wonder what they're gonna do with that. I mean, how else are you gonna bring him back?
It feels like they would just have to change so much in like an insane way if they get rid of Sunfire.
If they get rid of Sunfire, like it would be almost hilarious because they're throwing themselves into a season 8 Game of Thrones situation on purpose.
I think they're already there, but like after that
Yeah,
last episode, but I think
that's
that's
true.
they have the potential to pull it back. Like it's not their final season.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Hopefully they take. Oh well, look, we got another super chat.
We do.
Sunfire, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Uh, Sunfire went through a
Always
shonen
nice.
anime arc and became OP. Yeah, he totally did,
He did,
which is
yeah.
cool.
Sunfire is
You
awesome.
don't. Not many of the dragons undergo like
An
what you
arc,
could
yeah.
call an
They don't really
arc,
have
like
as much of a
character development.
story, yeah.
They're essentially just cars. Like you get in your dragon, you kill a few people, you park your dragon at Dragonstone, and that's it. Like like Caraxes goes over he slaughters all these people, and then he goes, "All right, time for bed," and like he doesn't change. But Sunfire, he becomes a totally different dragon at the end, and that's cool. That you mention it like that. Like none of the other dragons had character development,
Yeah, like they have personality, but they don't have as much of a story as Sunfire does.
and that I can't wait to see. That's probably there was
If we
something
see
about the
it.
show. Yeah, right. There's something about the show that kind of was whispering that to me, and I couldn't put my finger on it until just now. And so that's pretty interesting. No character development in the dragons. They're just
Mm.
cars or nukes, but still.
Which is a
Um,
shame because they cook in so many other ways. Like it's just sort of the problem with a lot of bad media right now is like everyone does their job so well, and it's just the
yeah,
writing that lets it down.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like all the VFX looks awesome, all the acting is awesome, and then they have to follow the
Mm.
script.
I feel so
The
sorry for some
core,
of the actors, like Egon's in particular, Tom Glencarney, and whoever it is who plays Helena, I can't remember her
yeah,
name, but like they wanted so much more to come from Blood and Cheese and like their reactions to it, and they wanted their characters to have scenes together, and the writers just like, oh no, we need to focus more on Rhaenyra instead, and it's like,
insane.
yeah, like Aemond as well. Like there's so much that like all his thoughts on his character, like from his actor and how he wants to spin it, and they just have to labor under the fucking awful script, and it must be so horrible as an actor to have that on your portfolio, but knowing you can't use it that well. It must be quite
Yeah,
painful.
yeah. It's you'd think a portfolio piece like being in House of the Dragon would be really robust, but that entirely hinges on how well it closes out.
Like what they actually let your character do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you fumble from lines that aren't even yours, that sucks. That's like getting hamstrung, knowing you could do better. Yeah, I'm not crazy on that.
Agony. Right, the
Agony.
final golden dragon. Actually, let's put Simfa back where he belongs in A. And I think I want to put Ghidorah in A as well.
I
I
like him
wouldn't.
in an A.
It was like if this was a kaiju tier list, he would be an S. But I think he's a kaiju first and a dragon second, and for that he
Yeah.
goes in A over S.
Yeah, I feel you could replace him with any appearance, like any body, any design, and he would still work as the lightning kaiju. Um, he's a dragon, which does help his intensity, like as a big bad. He's the dragon of the story, so he's literally a dragon. But yeah, he doesn't need to be one to make the story work. Uh, so I could agree with A. He's the first three-headed dragon I think looks good.
Hmm.
Um, and I hate three like multi-headed dragons usually. I don't know why. It's just something I do ever since I was
Multiple
a kid.
heads
And
is always just a bit like if you like your
yeah,
dragons grounded, multiple heads is always a bit of a stick in the
exactly.
mud.
And I added one to my project, a two-headed dragon, and I regretted it the second I put it out. Um, but I don't know what it is. Something about it just does not really. I don't find it that interesting. He's the first one that I think it works. I like three as a head. I like that they interact with each other and have different personalities,
Hmm.
and he has a strong silhouette, and that's that Ghidorah silhouette that only
Yeah.
he really has, with
And
the
the way
wings
he's
that
almost
go all
like
the
the
way up.
contrast to Godzilla, like bright where Godzilla's dark, sort of slender where Godzilla's fat. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
play off
you
each
get
other
it.
very well.
When he does the thing where he lifts his wings up and his heads go curling back,
Oh, and he has
I
like the
think
rattlesnake tail as well in King
I
of the
was just gonna
Monsters.
say the rattlesnake tail is awesome. Gives that message of venom, of danger, of snake-like, things. And the three heads have a really strong silhouette when he's in his pose, like his classic pose, so that I think would
Mm.
not hit nearly as hard if he had one head.
Yeah, no,
Because if he
agreed.
had one head, he's just a dragon. But three heads turn him into something more. It almost gives
Mm.
him a
The
biblical
alien as
appearance.
well.
Exactly. Oh, we got actually a couple super messages here.
We do.
First, yeah, first one was about House of the Dragon. They didn't do anything with Toxic Yuri. So true. Very true. They almost did something near the end with the hand or the whispers, but that's a different character. Um, and then is Rodan a dragon? Yes, he is. He uses fire. He has wings. He's scaly. He's a dragon.
I'd have to put him in B though, because like in the same argument that like the Fell Beast is in B, I think Rodan would have to be
Yep.
as well.
Rodan. We actually had a conversation before we started the stream about like categories of each of these
Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
Rodan is a fell beast, as a fell beast is Rodan. Um, they're both bird like monsters that are kind of like dragons, but really just aren't. Like Ghidorah is a dragon in his story. He's the big bad that's like ending the world. Rodan is like, he shoots out of a volcano and then he kind of dies. Like that's he's not necessarily very dragon like in his thing. Um, in my opinion, I like
No,
him though. I
yeah,
love
I do,
yeah
but I would agree in that, yeah, he is sort of dragonish, but not.
yeah. Oh, actually, funny comment in here. Rip C tier. I just realized that there are no C tier dragons.
Yeah.
Well,
So essentially at the end, do you want to move anyone up or down?
I was thinking maybe we could do that now that we're looking
S?
at them.
S, I think I don't want to. S, I think everyone there has earned their place.
Everyone has earned S. That's our most perfect category.
A,
Um,
I'm generally happy with.
which one are you questioning, if
No, I'm
any?
saying I'm generally happy.
Oh, okay.
And B, like, I think, again, all arguments we made for them to be in B are reasonably sound.
I think, yeah, I mean, honestly, this list, just by the nature of this kind of list, might have been better off without an S tier. That
Yeah,
way we could
maybe.
fill out that because the top would be the A, and you just kind of move everything down one. Then again, some of those designs in C don't really feel like they would be actually C tier.
Hmm.
That implies like below average. Like I don't think Fatalis is necessarily a C tier. He's a B. Even the Fell Beast, I like him too much
Yeah, like,
to be
you could
that.
argue for him being in C, but I also just love him too much.
Exactly. I think his head is very well designed, especially.
And I
The
just
only
love
one I
watching
guess I
them
have.
fly.
Yeah, exactly. The only one I think we should push down to C
Oh.
is the Horntail.
Because of
And
JK Rowling.
yes,
That's
but
as good an
also,
argument as any.
exactly, also, not only rolling, but that design is really nice in a few ways, but it's also just not, it could be more.
Like, in
It
the
could
book,
be,
it was described as,
yeah,
like, very long and like a giant black lizard. And I don't know
yeah,
if you ever saw I think the European book cover, and it had, like, a pretty book
I
accurate
did,
picture of it.
yeah,
But I think
and
I
it
do
looks
prefer
great.
the wyvern. It looks cool,
I
but I think
do
I do prefer, like, the Carnotaurus wyvern.
I prefer the wyvern. I think if they took the body and made it jet black, then we
That
could
would be
talk.
quite cool.
Then we could talk if he was jet black, which is weirdly enough uh, kind of a thing you don't really see all that often. But I think unless you're toothless, even Drogon, he's a black dragon, but he's also not. He's got way more like pink in him
Yeah.
and white. He's not like it's he has dark scales, but I feel like if I see Balerion, I want to see him be like total like charcoal colored, like no pinks, no nothing, unless it's
Almost like
around his like
Vanta
big.
Black.
Yeah, like oh, that would be sick.
It
How
would
about that?
be.
Like just like sucking the light out of the sky. Oh,
If
don't get me started.
if if like Ancalacon, well, I said that really weirdly, but if Ancalacon ever comes to like any form of live action adaptation, it would be really cool if they made him like Vanta Black, like he just sucks the light out because
You could totally do that
his
with him too.
role as a dragon, that's what he should be like. Like he is like Morgoth's strongest. No, not Morgoth.
Yeah,
Melkor. He is like his strongest unit. Like when he dies, he crushes a mountain range, and
yeah, he's
yeah, he
just
should be given that
mythical.
gravitas. Yeah.
If he needs to be so dark that like I almost don't want to even see the details on his skin
Mm.
and just the silhouette, almost like a shadow. Oh my god, that would be so awesome.
Almost like he's
Uh,
living night in a way, because he's so big that he
yeah,
just blots out everything else.
yeah, like maybe you'll see some flecks of like his mask, so you know that he's not just like a shadow, like the sorcerer in the Hobbit movies, but he is like a living thing, but he's just that dark. And dude, if they had the guts to do that, I would be very happy. Maybe if I get some cool industry job by the time that comes out,
You can make the
I will make
Silmarillion.
I'll make it happen. Uh,
Also, we have a
let's
final
see.
super chat saying, rank the best Dragon Slayer Codex Dragon design. Which
I
of
don't
your
know if
children
I'm.
is your favorite?
I don't know if I'm qualified
I
to
think it's got to come
pick.
from you.
Uh,
That will be our sign-off point. What your
the
final decision
best
is.
designed. There's a lot of um things that go into that. I could choose one of my weird ones and call him the most unique of them. Like, um, you know what? I will say the Hellbasker, the most recent iteration of that has the YouTube video.
There
I
we
would say
go.
him
The
because he
Hellbasker
went.
is your answer.
Yes, he is the most. He had the most iterations, the most time to sit and think. I knew exactly what I wanted out of him, and gave him a very unique texture. He's very much his own thing. He couldn't necessarily be confused for another dragon with his wing silhouette and his sort of burnt metal look and all that stuff he has going on. Very tied to his environment, very much part of his environment. He's not necessarily like a lordly dragon that rules over it all. He could be killed by like the other animals. He is a very good representative of a dragon in an ecosystem that also has some mythic feats behind him. So, like the fire thing. So he's a good representation of the project, I think.
There we
Trick
go.
question.
Well said.
Someone said, thank you. Someone said, trick question, all the dragons are S tier. Why, thank you, Ark.
Also well
It's,
said, yeah.
yeah. But
Alrighty,
yeah,
so that was fun, yeah. I think we've made a good
I had a
list.
blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
always like doing these. Yeah, what's up?
Sawyer's link tree and details are in the description. There's a link to my Discord
Yes.
as well. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And we will
Oh,
bid
thank you
you,
guys.
from my end, good night. I'm not sure what time it is on your end.
It's just about started. It's around 7 p.m.
Half midnight
So
here.
it's all right. Oh, damn.
I know. So with that,
But
we
yes,
will, yeah, bid you good night and thank you for joining us.
thank you, everybody.